Hello everyone and welcome to Playday 3 of America's Elite League. My name is Gibson and joining me tonight is the familiar face of the one and only Imperium. And Imperium, we're back together, we're casting again. How excited are you to be here for another season of America's Elite League?
I'm pretty damn hyped, not only to be casting with another Irish brethren such as yourself, Gibson, but indeed Season 5. This is now my third season in a row of America's Elite League casting. We've seen different teams come and go across the season, and in this number 5, once again, we're looking to see who's going to be the best amongst the LATAM, Brazil, and North America regions.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this season goes because it was a really dramatic final day last time around.
It was.
You know, 4 teams, I think, still had a chance of winning with 2 maps left to be played. But the big thing that impacts how the season ends is the way the groups are laid out as well. And do any of these groups really stand out to you tonight as being one of the ones that could lead to one of those situations at the end of the season where a team is sitting waiting on the results elsewhere to see if they can end up winning?
Of course, at the moment, if you're going to go at least by the first 2 days' results, I suppose ATON Esports, should I say, currently lying in 4th overall in standings, which we will get to, and Nova as well, right? They're in 2nd North America representative, so those 2 teams to an extent for the time being, but no specific groups stand out. Influence Rage in day 2, if anybody would have missed it, had a hell of a result. 4 strong results, 71 points in their 4 games. That's an average of nearly 20 per game. That's kind of what Influence Rage have known to do, and different season, same characteristics from Influence Rage.
Yeah, it was the thing that we spoke about big time, was they had no problem whatsoever with picking up the frags, but the issue was in the late game they always found themselves being third-partied, and you know, time and time again it was Alpha 7 were the ones that were always the thorn in the side for Influence Rage. But another team that I think had a very strong season last year and definitely in a good position to grow on it is going to be Lux Esports as well. I think
yes,
they're a team, there's so much quality in that roster, but with them being in Group A, we're not going to see them until map number 2.
No, and in yesterday's day 2, they got 2 chicken dinners in a row. Now, unfortunately, it was off the back of a 7-pointer and a 1-pointer game in their first 2 games of the day, but to definitely show their strength across 2 games in a row of yesterday is a good sign for them coming into day number 3 of the America's Elite League Season 5. I'm also looking out for XSET as well, Gibson. Day 1, what just happened, the PMPL North America Spring Split Finals, they came out on top, so they're currently the best team in North America. Nova finished in 2nd, and what's very important is they're competing against the likes of the Brazilian teams and the LATAM teams in the Americas finals coming up in a couple of weeks. So we might not see the best of XSET across these 8. It's very important that they use this America's Elite League as preparation, as practice to work on their own strategy, as well as scouting how the other teams are playing across all of these days.
Yeah, and playing for XSET, there's this inherent pressure as well. They're one of the biggest esports orgs in the world. So if you're signed up with them, you have to be on it all the time, Imperium. And yes, they're going to be on top of the world after winning PMPL, but you're only as good as your last play day. So the way they perform today will have a big impact. But we've spoken a little bit about the old favourites and the familiar names, Imperium. There's a couple of new teams that have come in this season, and is there anything you've seen from them so far that gives you cause for excitement?
Yes and no. Look, MEXEZIS, yeah, they have potential. Infinity, I definitely see a lot of strengths, and WALLSTREETBETS, unfortunately, they seem to have floundered, only getting 1 point in their 4 games. In yesterday's set of games, they didn't even play game 5 as far as I'm aware. So look, it's going to be a bit of ups and downs, but as new teams technically coming in this America's League, there is that time where they might need to just get used to the lobby, get used to the format, and hopefully we will see these teams evolve across the days.
Yeah, Wall Street Bets, maybe they need to stop investing in those penny stocks and start hitting those big ticket investments to try climb that table. Couple of surprises for me though was VIVO Keyed haven't had the start that I would have expected to see from them, especially considering how good of a roster they have. Imperium, they're sitting in 16th place right now with 44 points, and that's the one that stands out to me immediately.
There, but also below them, Gibson, Alpha 7, right here in 17th. And what's even more surprising is the distribution of their placement points to elimination points. They only have 15 elimination points. In the past, they've always been known as a team that are more heavily focused on getting those eliminations, getting those big squad wipes in games, even if they don't finish first, second, or third. So to see that distribution heading the other way, I'm not saying it is inherently a bad thing, because again, preparing for the Americas, it could be important that they're focusing on their placement, when they're focusing on their positioning coming into the later stages of the game. But it is something to observe. Do lie in 17th over towards the top half though. Impressive ATON Esports. I don't know how long they're going to be able to hold on to it though, because they're the kind of team, at least from what I saw in season 4, where they would, in terms of the overall standings, but then they dropped and they dropped and they dropped, and they couldn't seem to adapt to the lobby or hold on to the pressure around them. So I hope it's different this season around.
Yeah, well, that's it. When you play in a league format, there's so many more play days, which usually means that the cream rises to the top. But on Alpha 7, 15 eliminations. 15 kill or eliminations is something you'd expect to see from them in a game at times, never mind a couple of play days. We've seen them hit some astronomical numbers over the course of the few games that we did manage to cast together. But they're Alpha 7. You know, those guys, I don't think they're going to be too phased. They know it's early. It's only play day 3. You know, the way that table looks right now, I guarantee you it'll be unrecognizable, 5-6 play days from now.
Definitely, and that's why, to an extent, it's important for Influence Ray to hold on to that top spot, because we didn't even really get much of a chance to talk to them when we looked at this. They have about a 22-point lead, if I'm not mistaken, over Nova Esports. So just that little bit extra of a cushion when you really compare that, that's the same amount of differential as second place to about 7th. So first to second, second to 7th, it's the same gap. That's why it's really positive for Influence Rage coming into today's games, that they kind of maintain that cushion, because yeah, you're right, the likes of Alpha 7, VIVO, even Rise Esports, they will grab that cream and bring it up to the top as you get through the play days.
You didn't want to run the Rise pun twice in a row there, did you, Imperium? But I think you're right. When you're top of the leaderboard and you have a comfortable lead, the big thing is, you don't need to be the pace setters. You just need to be in the hunt. Second or third place in those games should always just keep you just about ahead. But we're getting ready to jump into game number 1 of the day. And, this is Sandhawk. This is one of the most beautiful maps in the game. And it always leads to some very interesting final circles.
It does. And this is going to be inherently the map of the day. We have 3 Sandhawks, 2 Orangos, so expect some very fast-paced action, Gibson. We saw a couple of hot drops in season 4 from these teams in the America's Elite League. I wonder if it's the same this time around. We did see our first Sandhawk game of the America's Elite League season 5 in day 2 last night, but again, with 3 Sandhawk games in a day, it's going to be a different kettle of fish.
It will, and we're getting underway. Flight path from 10 o'clock down through to 4 o'clock. Just intersecting the middle of the map. A lot of these teams will be able to jump into their normal drop points. Some of these teams, like you said, will have to contest some early engagements. But the big thing, Imperium, we speak about it time and time again, if you get in an early game engagement, you need to keep as many players alive as possible. And that's maybe something that Loop suffered from a couple of times last season. They'd win the early gunfights, but they'd be fighting with just 2 players left alive because they just were never able to get the players back up.
And we see the hot drop action coming on as Lazarus are going to be taking on Influence Rage. Koski has been put down to his knees, and Lazarus yet to suffer a casualty. Joey does have that level 2 helmet and that level 1 vest, so that's going to give him a bit of protection as they're on the hunt, looking to take down Influence Rage.
Yeah, Lazarus, Joey's jumping in that window. He wants to get another elimination. Influence Rage, 2 members down. Make that 3 as Lazarus are making short work. And I think we've just cast or cursed Influence Rage so hard as they've just got 1 remaining player. Federal is running away. Self-preservation. And I think that will be the message of the day. But for Lazarus sitting in that bottom 3, bottom 4, this is a fantastic start for them. 3 points very early on.
It's much needed for them to start day 3 of the American Elite League Season 5. Taking a little bit of time, at least, to talk about where other teams have dropped. We do see WALLSTREETBETS going up against INTZ Paradise Resort. A couple of other teams on that northwestern side of the island. ATON on the Mong Nai Camp Bravo split. Honored Souls have 2 players inside Camp Bravo. And then Rise have a 4-man spread all around that eastern side of Paradise Resort, north to south. They do have to be careful because Black Dragons do have a couple of members near Mufasa and Rafina, as far as I know.
Yeah, I like the way that this is shaping up, though, Rise. They're playing the smart game. They're waiting for some sort of engagement to kick off so they can come in and pick up on those scraps. But Paradise is the dance floor for these 2 teams as they get ready to do that tango of death to see who can pick up the most points early on. It is the WALLSTREETBETS, and we said it before, they've been playing with the penny stocks. Let's see if they can jump up and fight it in with the big boys. Shots are raining on out as we see 20 damage done. AK-47, the weapon of choice for Chick. He's holding the angle, he's peeking around the corner, but it's just silence from the rest of these players. They're waiting for the perfect moment to strike, Imperium.
24k, let's see if we can live up to the name and get a 24-carat gold engaging onto the members of INTZ. Using that third-person perspective is positive, but his head does get exposed a little bit down to half health. He doesn't know where he's going, turns his back, gets knocked in to open the door.
Yeah, and INTZ now need to get a little bit of aggressive. They've got the opening knock. The dinner bell has been rung. And we're going to jump on over to another fight. XSET to get 1 knock, but we're back on in this one. Freddy is going to fall down to his knees. It's all falling apart for both of these teams. There's 1 player left standing. Nemo's going to go for the res, and just look at this. The remaining member of Zero is too far away. But he's got that DBS shotgun. We know how difficult that can be to deal with. And it sings out twice. Gets 1 knock. Trying to get the second. But Imperium is just going to fall back, reload, and get ready for the second phase of this fight.
That Freedom Rain with the shotgun blast is going to focus on towards the AKM. And he's going to lose it out. WALLSTREETBETS come out on top.
Oh, they didn't hedge anything there at all as they pick up 4 eliminations too, and they're going to get 2 members back up and running. But I'm just looking at the map, and they made a lot of noise, and there's a couple of teams just sneaking that way. Rise, I think, got very tempted by what was going on there. The zone hasn't started to close on him yet, but for the most part, looking at where these teams are spread out, most of the teams in the zone already.
Most of the teams are already inside this phase 1. It's predominantly down towards the south side, in between that kind of mainland and northwest island. I don't know exactly what went wrong for INTZ because we switched over to that 1 engagement and then switched back, and it seemed to go from bad to worse. But something happened in their communication and how they really pushed in, and WALLSTREETBETS took full advantage of it. Delta Stars swinging in outside the Cow Tapmock area, heading closer towards Paradise Resort, which Black Dragons have definitely gone closer towards. MEXEZIS have a 2-2 split between on the north hillside. That's a good start for them.
Yeah, now Wall Street Bets, they've gone out of the frying pan into the fire as the Black Dragons are pushing on, and they know that Wall Street Bets are a little bit weak, but Sheik spots them out, can't get the knock, falls back into a little bit of cover as the pressure now coming on, and Frady can't dance around the bullets as he falls down to his knees as well. Black Dragons, they've 1 member down, 3 members up, but it's all down to Sheik, the last man, the last bastion of hope for Wall Street Bets. He gets to Imperium. It's a 1v1 for this one, but Talents is just too good for that. They're eliminated in 15th place, but that is a very positive start for the Wall Street Bets.
Wall Street Bets, I absolutely salute you. It's always so difficult going from one engagement pretty much direct next on right because you have zero time to think, and what goes around comes around. Black Dragons took full advantage of Wall Street Bets. Now it's Delta Stars taking full advantage of them.
Yeah, Delta Stars, they're not letting any respite for the Black Dragons at all. And look at this, Duxzada gets wiped out from Elite, and that will be that for the Black. 14th place, they fall. 13 teams alive, and 7 minutes gone. We have had an absolute barn burner to get us up and running.
I told you. This is Sandhawk in the Americas Elite League. Teams just give it everything they've got. They sniff an opportunity. They will look to try and take full advantage of it, all guns blazing. And look, when the dust is settled, it does allow a little bit more time for the teams who are already inside the circle, because they'll look at the number of players that are left in the lobby. 48 right now. If you're a squad of 4 right now, you see there's 44 left, right? So that means you know that there's a little bit more freedom, a little bit more of an area to control inside at least these early circles for the time being. MEXEZIS, that 2-2 split is certainly a positive, Gibson, but it does come with its risks. I would nearly prefer a 3-1 split. Either 3 inside Painan, 1 on the northern hillside, or 3 on the northern hillside, 1 inside Painan. It's quite difficult to hold that hillside as a duo. All it takes is 1 knock, and a team, like I said, they'll look to take full advantage of it.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you like to have maybe 1 scout and then a core member of 3 teams as opposed to that 2-2 split.
Exactly.
I think with the 2-2 split, you have to get the jump on the team you're fighting. If you get spotted out first in the 2-2 split, it's curtains. Unless you are one of the supremely talented players we have in this roster who can 180 on a dime and slam somebody who fires shots their way. But for the most part, apart from maybe 1 or 2 special players, this is a very, very well-balanced lobby. And, you know, there's a reason why these teams have been invited. These are 20 of the best teams in all of the Americas.
Not wrong there. Boring Protocol, team who've risen pretty nicely in the North America scene, qualified through from the PMPL North America into the Americas regional finals coming up in the next couple of weeks. So there's a lot of strength in how they play. Acer on their side is a extremely experienced player in competitive PUBG Mobile. So I think with the rest of his team, they're looking to use that experience along with the motivation, along with the hunger to succeed under that Boring Protocol name. Of course, make a name for themselves, not only in the Americas Elite League Season 5, but across the whole of 2022 year. We are about to see Phase 2 pop up, Gibson. I hope it's going to be a good one.
Well, Phase 2 gives you an idea of where we're going to see the rest of the game fought out, and I can't wait to see which way it pops. If it goes south, though, it could be very interesting. If it goes north, oh, we've got a nice little split between the 2 islands as it centers on up in and around those Painan compounds and that road just to the south of it. But Boring Protocol, their name is one of the biggest lies I have ever seen before, because they are all action, and I can assure you that they do not live up to that name whatsoever. But jumping back into the zone and kind of the permutations of what's going to happen, you look at some of the splits that's going on right now, and with Influence Rage, Federal's obviously the solo player, but he's got a little bit lucky here because he's going to have a pretty safe rotate in towards the western bridge.
Yeah, he went from boot camp, as far as I know, swam across the water, went on into the northeast island, which was the least congested / least odd area of the phase 1 circle, and then used that to his advantage. While XSET gonna push in, two North American teams going up against each other. XSET and Boring Protocol. It hasn't really gone the right way for the time being. J7 on his knees.
Yeah, J7 down, and Carrot just trying to live up to his name as he's tossing that utility over across the road. Here comes the rest of those members of Bowling Protocol. But look at this, INCO. They're getting a little bit jiggy as well as they push on, and Jay just staying outside the flames, but eventually they lick his toes, and he drops now to kill switch on full retreat, repositioning himself for the next phase. But the longer this goes on, the more that those INCO Lions are going to get tempted to just feast upon the remnants of this one. And INCO are another team that I was so happy to see back into the season.
Good play by Boring Protocol. A proactivity coming into that phase 2 was certainly not resting on the laurels of the trifecta compound and even to the hill down south of it, which was always going to be a good place to hold on to in phase 2. They decided to push forward based on the information they got, and like they took full advantage of it. One of the most decorated players in PUBG Mobile America competitive. His resume goes on for days and days and days, and he's certainly using it to his advantage, leading the Boring Protocol to another team fight win.
Yeah, almost impressive as your resume, Imperium, when I've seen the amount of great events that you've managed to work. But Killswitch doing a great job. He went on the full retreat after that earlier gunfight and picks up a point for himself for exit. So, and I like what he's doing now too. He's just throwing down that utility to create some smoke, maybe get himself a couple of 1v1s again. But MEXEZIS there, pushing it up there, dreaming of wiping out XSET. If they can wipe out the last member of XSET, they don't care if it's 1 player or 4. Like you said, XSET just won PMPL Americas, and that'll be something that MEXEZIS can be proud about. Taking them out and map number 1, as we have just a dozen teams left going into phase number 3, which is going to pop in about 30 seconds.
MEXEZIS marks a spot for MEXEZIS as they do get their revenge on the XSET. Indeed, the Blue Zone of phase 2 is starting to close in. Nova dropping around the Samney area. Haven't really had too far to travel to get into a controlling position down on toward the south Island Hills. Your 3-1 split is absolutely perfect. Yes, Kindness isn't really able to cover every inch of his teammates, but what he's able to do is he's able to get some pre-information on possibly Team QUESO coming in from the south, or possibly ATON Esports inside phase 3 to allow the rest of the team to prepare and stop themselves getting backstabbed.
Yeah, and that's what you don't want to happen. And with a zone shift like this, it actually suits most of the teams involved. But looking down towards the southeast, we got a lot of action going on. Honored Souls taking a little bit of damage, and they're up against Alpha 7, who are looking to get their America's Elite League up and running. 1 minute and 5 seconds until that zone starts moving again, and Honored Souls are just going to continue rotating north, making their way up towards Quarry, where you can find a little bit of temporary respite. And you know, you spoke about Team QUESO, and I said to myself, I'm not going to make any puns this time around because it's just too cheesy.
That's a good one there, Gibson. That's a good one. I'll give you that one. I'll give you a friend. I knew it was coming, but I mean, I was like, yep. I have to allow him his time to pull out the dad guns. Bring it on, my friend. It's one of the enjoyments of working with you during the America's Elite League, and there's plenty more to come because we are doing all of the remaining days of the America's League. So let's go, man. Let's go.
The poor viewers is all I'm gonna say. They had 2 absolute pros from the world of esports last night, and now they're back to me. Well, back back to me, because you're obviously a pro as well.
To be fair. Well, I'm not a pro, man. I'm a scrub.
Well, look, speaking of scrub, Elite is just looking to scrub Federal out of this one. He's going for a little bit of a swim. Yes, this is Sandhawk. Yes, I'm sure the water is just fine, but there's more than just sharks in this water. There could potentially be some 5, 6 rounds, but Elite's just got a little bit distracted. He thought that maybe he was going to come up the other side, but you just think it's a matter of if and not when we will see Federal fall as he continues to just swim closer and closer into the zone. Escanor having a little bit of a look. Let's jump on over to Lazarus. Maybe we'll see them fly close to the sun tonight, and maybe they'll do it successfully. Maybe they might fail. But for those of you at home, Kazeki's not just having a lie down. Imperium, he's just looking around without giving away his position, trying to find those teams that are coming on and that may cause an issue later on in this game.
Certainly remains to be seen what Lazarus can do from this north boot camp, south boot camp hillside on the northern side of the circle. I once again appreciate the kindness of Nova. Once again, hasn't presumed that that south side will be clear as the rest of the team continue to hold on towards that south Pineland hillside. They will have to be careful as INCO, although they're starting to make some noise, are definitely getting closer towards that hillside. If they can send INCO closer towards Boring Protocol, not only does it save them the engagement, but it allows them to third party in due time. You can see QZ though, Gibson starting to cook up a pre-nade along with Z-Fan.
Oh, Z-Fan's got that nade in hand. It's primed, it's cooked, it's tossed, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. But the bullets, the spray from Nova does a lot of damage onto INCO. 2 of those players dropped onto their knees as QZZZ, and I swear those Z's aren't because he's asleep. He is wide awake in the hunt for the victory in game number 1 of the night. Wrapping himself around. Nova doing a lot of damage. The zone shift again goes way on up to the north of the circle, and suddenly we've got a bit of a scramble, Imperium, as all of these teams to the south need to get across that river and into that next phase.
The one positive thing to an extent is there's a number of entry points into the mainland side. The one thing is that I suppose nearly all of them are going to be taken as Lazarus can do absolutely nothing as he does get an initial lock. Has to switch over going towards the Thompson. Nearly finds a second.
I don't know how he got completely missed. He was hiding in a corner and they didn't spot him out, and now he's going to wipe around and potentially do more damage. But Escanor from Delta Stars, he got the first aid kit popped. He's throwing the smoke. He runs out of the smoke and into those rounds of Kazeki as Lazarus continue picking up 4 points. INCO fall elsewhere. Elite is going to drop now too. Lazarus keep picking up those points and eliminate Delta Stars, but more importantly, Spears is going to get that helping hand back up onto his feet. 20 minutes almost gone in this one, and we've got 9 teams left. But the magic number, as always, Imperium, there are still 32 players alive and kicking.
Lazarus, great engagement, using that element of surprise as well as just good teamwork to get that squad out onto Delta Stars without suffering any casualties. Say what you want about Kaseki being inside the shack. Like I said, it always has to be responded with strong teamwork, and that was exactly the case. And Delta Stars did not know what hit them. Federal still alive, but he's getting closer to Lazarus boys as he swings in and plays towards the compound that's inside the Phase 4 circle.
Yeah, inside the Sex Shack, but Federal moving on up. You know, that's meant to sound like Shake Shack, by the way, for anyone outside of NA.
You do realize what it sounded like?
Exactly. That's why I just went ahead and, you know, confirmed what I wanted to say, because I'm sure the Americans knew exactly what I meant. Fears looking down the hill to the rest of those members moving on, and that's a nice little spray, and 1 man drops. Now look at Boring Protocol having a little go up to Nova. Kindness being killed by something other than kindness as Spec is just having a look up the hill. Lazarus closing on down as well as all of these teams are just being forced closer and closer together. Lazarus 9 eliminations now as they continue this relentless assault on the lobby, and and I'm looking at the rest of the teams. A7 Alpha have done nothing at all as Lazarus get into it with the last remaining members of Nova.
It was always going to be difficult for Nova entering in towards that mainland. Like I said, there was a couple of entry points, but again, they were nearly all going to be blocked. I think for Nova, they could have entered by actually going through the trifecta bridge on the underside. It would have stopped them from getting third-party at least. But like I said, they didn't really know. They took the chance, and it was only going to take them so far. They do still have at least one player left inside the lobby that isn't going to be able to heal Sharp, while Boring Protocol put pressure onto Lazarus.
Yeah, Boring Protocol continuing to look for points. They've got 3 eliminations. They're going to try and make it 4.
Beautiful.
And that is a great long-range spray with the M4 as another player falls to their knees. Time is the enemy for a lot of these sides outside the zone. Alpha 7, they're sitting pretty. Yes, they've got no eliminations, but they've got the only compound left. Team QUESO sliding up that hill. They're not doing some cheese chasing down the hill. They're rolling up, and they're hoping to roll up that table as well. Sea God getting picked up here. He's fallen. The zone closes in. Ayala drops to his knees as Honored Souls are the gatekeepers of Team QUESO. Cunha, though, he is an absolute menace. Pedrinho is dancing around the tree, looking around, but Imperium, the kill feed is lighting up. There's no sight. Oh, look at that shot from range.
Beautiful from the Zexus. Taking down the rest of Team QUESO. Just face their might, and down they go. Rise Esports on towards the northern side, and the next phase is about to pop up, and it shifts down south. The tiny corner of the building that Alpha 7 holds on to is inside the circle. But other than that, it is all open, baby.
I love it. We might see some matting in the zone. We might see some players maybe looking for those points where they can find them. Federal from Influence Rage is still alive, though. So power to him as he looks to pick up more and more placing points. Rise moving in from the north. You pointed out Alpha 7. Already there's 7 teams alive looking to pick up a share of those chicken dinner points. Federal's taking a little bit of blue damage, but he takes a shot from range as well as Influence Rage are finally wiped on out. Alpha 7 still in the compound, but looking at what's going on, I really like the way that Alpha 7 are just biding their time. Ace Creo eventually gets the first knock from them. We jump back into Boring Protocol, and so far, so good for them, Imperium.
So far, so good. Carnage has been able to get on towards the southern side of the road, and maybe the minority of the circle, but it's allowing him to get a different level of angle. Alpha 7, all they have to do is fire towards Rise, towards Boring Protocol, and then let them take each other out, right? And then they can pick up the pieces. Time is ticking away as the blue zone closes in.
Yeah, beautiful spray from Spec as another couple of players fall every single time he puts his finger to the trigger. Right, Rise getting picked apart, but now Alpha 7, they have finally welcomed their way into this lobby. The zone shifts again as we now have 4 teams left. Just 4 squads trying to get the chicken dinner. Mafiosa. Oh yeah, Mufasa. Oh, look at this. Rise are just peeking on up, but that nade could be a good one. Does a lot of damage. And with a zone like this, Imperium, we see a lot of snakes, but which of these snakes are your friendly neighborhood ones and which of these ones pack a bite?
Boring Protocol able to get themselves up to duo Mufasa on the sliver of health. Nova, his final player, healing in the blue, while Alpha 7 do have the majority of players left in the lobby.
Oh, and time is just forcing these players closer together. Azor's been spotted out by Alpha 7, so he's going to toss a couple more smokes. Rise finally fall. Yep, I said that exactly that way, as they're now out of the lobby as well. And we just have 3 teams left. Sam needs to get this med off quickly because that zone, it is a kick, and it is a hard kick. Mafioso is knocked. Revo has taken a lot of damage, but Boring Protocol Azor needs to provide some support for his friend on the edge of the zone. Spots out Swag. Nice spray onto him. And that may provide Sam the chance to get in, but no, Revo gets that knock. He was prone in the grass as well. 2 teams left alive, Alpha 7. And just one other player way off in the distance, just rezzing up for Nova. And Alpha 7's more than likely starting the day with a big performance, plenty of points, and it was only a matter of time.
Nova Esports doing really the best of both worlds, right? Like I said, it was always going to be difficult for them entering that mainland circle, but they had that one player in the backline ready to pull off a heal strat if it didn't really work out for the rest of the team, and they've been rewarded with the second place. They had a decent game up until then, while Alpha 7, look, they didn't have to do much, right? They got a little bit of circle luck, but when push came to shove, they were proactive in their position, and they got the elimination points, they got the control, and they got themselves a chicken dinner.
Alpha 7 activated now. Let's see if they can continue that form going into the rest of the day, but a couple of teams definitely deserve a little bit of love with how they performed in that map. Massive shout out to WALLSTREETBETS for that early engagement. Yes, they didn't get a lot of play. They didn't get any placement points, but they had a much better start to that game. Gotta give a little bit of love as well to the boys from MEXEZIS Dreams, and it's always nice to see newer teams coming on in and making a little bit of an impact.
Love it, man. I love it.
That's what we're here for, and that's why this tournament is so fun to watch as well. Boring Protocol, they had a very good game too, but for game number 1 for us tonight, the rekindling of the partnership that we had from last season. Yes, it was a short one, but you'd swear we never left, because Alpha 7, first game back together, they go ahead and get the win, and this is what you expect to see from a roster like that.
It is, and like I said, it was just well executed when push came to shove. It's exactly what they needed to do. You had a WALLSTREETBETS, which is all fair play, as well as MEXEZIS. But I gotta give a shout out to LAZARUS. They had themselves a couple of early fights. They rocked themselves up, I believe, with 10 elimination points and taking down the likes of Delta Stars. It was just that unfortunate circle shifted, and that I suppose the delay when Nova pushed in, that was the ultimate pain factor in that regard. You saw Boring Protocol third party them on towards the underside of the boot camp hill, and it just became too difficult for them in towards the end.
Yeah, and here are your stat leaders from game number 1. Kazeki, we spoke about Lazarus. He comes on top with 5 eliminations, but look at that, 4 different teams popping up inside that. But a low for Nino, Spec, and Follow as well. Looking on over to the damage dealt as well. Carrillo, 660, but Spec, look at that, the most damage and 4 eliminations. He had a damn good game as well.
Not really surprised to see Spec up there. He comes from a lineage of teams, including Ghost Gaming, I believe 19 Esports as well, if I'm not mistaken. Apologies if I've got that wrong, as I know that was the case. But either way, he has a lot of, once again, like Acer and Carnage, a lot of competitive PUBG Mobile experience, and he made it look very, very comfortable inside this first game of the day.
Yeah, comfortable for them. Koi, nothing was comfortable for him as he was taking blue damage for so long, getting 2,700 HP back for himself, which gained them that second place. And Imperium, when we get to the very end of America's Elite League, could those points be very important? But let's have a look at the point distribution from map number 1 in Imperium. Alpha 7, they took the chicken dinner, but because they only got 5 eliminations, Boring Protocol just 1 point behind.
It is typical Sanhok numbers. It normally is a low winning chicken dinner result inside Sanhok, because the elimination points tend to be spread out. Like the top 7 teams all have double-digit points. That's not really too common. Normally it's a top 3 to 5 teams in that regard, and then it suddenly drops down to Delta Stars in 8th with only 5 points. So once again, yeah, like you mentioned, goodbye MEXEZIS Honor Souls as well do deserve a bit of a mention. Once again, like in Season 4, they've really improved on their aggression, and they've highlighted an improvement and an evolution in going for engagements, going for those elimination points, and it was once again shown in this game of 6.
Well, it's a fine balance, isn't it? It's trying to get that middle ground between eliminations and placement points. We seen it last season. A couple of teams put up huge elimination numbers, but because they weren't able to eke out those all-important placement points, they weren't in contention to get the win. But why don't you talk us through that performance statistically by Alpha 7?
It really is. Obviously, it was all about that late game proactivity and the amount of nades used, for example. All of that would have been in the last 3 to 5 minutes of the game, so they made use of that time with the amount of utility they used, and it all led to that strong performance in getting that chicken arrow one. You know, was the MVP of that game individually. Like you said, Honor Souls stepping up their aggression, and it showed.
Yeah, Nino taking the map 1 MVP. He was the Grim Reaper for that lobby as he picked up 5 eliminations, and that little mix of damage to eliminations is a great ratio, 5 to 600. That's something he will love to see. Only 100 heal points, which shows that most of the engagements that he got in, he dominated. But that's a clean jersey to Imperium. I'm a bit of a fan of that.
Wouldn't say no to an Honor Souls jersey. No judge, wink wink, if anybody from the team is listening, you know. Because they find themselves in 3rd overall in the standings, and Influence Rage now only 9 points behind Nova Esports. 9 points ahead of Nova Esports, should I say, is Nova's 2nd place result with Koi's healing. Definitely reaped a lot of rewards for them.
Definitely did. Just 9 points off the pace. Honored Souls in 3rd, and WALLSTREETBETS as well. They picked up 4 more points for them, so that moves them from, they nearly doubled. Not quite double, but close to double in their tally as well. So if they could just keep doing that and keep eking out points, it'll do them the world of good. And Imperium, this isn't one of those leagues where the money that you earn is determined by specifically your place. It only really counts for the top couple of teams where they get a nice little split of the revenue. But everybody else, no matter what position they are, get an equal share of what's left. So for those teams that aren't necessarily fighting for the top, it's about building up that chemistry, working on getting the team nice and up and running, and just building confidence.
Actually, couldn't have said it better myself. As we are 1 game down in day number 3 of the America's Elite League. 4 more games to go. Let's head to a quick break.
takeover, the break's over, and some of these teams, Imperium, they don't fight fair. My name is Gibson, this is Imperium, and we are here for America's Elite League, Playday number 3, map number 2, and, you know, as much as everything changes, everything stays the same as Alpha 7 get the win on map number 1.
Can they follow it up in game number 2 as we head on over to the hollow grounds of Erangel? Of course, we will be introducing teams from Group A, as far as I know, and we will be removing teams from Group
B.
Group B. Bingo. Thank you very much, Gibson. I'm a giant potato. But either way, of course, the teams from Group number A will be playing in the second game of the day.
Yeah, and this is the opportunity for them to just close that gap again. There's nothing worse than being the group that sits out a game, because these players, they just want to play. They love what they do, and especially for those ones in the top 5, even though we are in this early situation, seeing the teams around them picking up points when you can't, it hurts. But we are jumping into map number 2. This flight path is going to go from about 1 o'clock down through to about 7, intersecting the heart of Erangel, just south of schools, south of Pachinki, touching that little pizza slice of heaven. But with a flight path like this, it just opens up a world of opportunities. But the only one, Imperium, that we can't get is that Zarky circle that I still have never got to cast.
One of these days. One of these days. Seems like there's a little bit of traffic in and around the Yasnai Pollyanna area for what we can see. Influence Rage have a bit of a 2-2 split on that western side, and directly between the center and the east, it's Lazarus and I think Delta Stars and Infinity. Two teams who are dropping inside Yasnaya. It's very, very rare that we have teams dropping other inside Yasnaya, because it's such a big city, Gibson. It tends to be pretty spreadable.
Yeah, probably one of the biggest and most built-up areas in all of Erangel, and it leads to very long, drawn-out engagements as well. But Delta Stars are working on closing that gap very fast towards Gamer, say from Influence, or sorry, not Influence, it's the same little code, but that will be one member down as Elite gets the first shots off. They draw blood, but we're getting the chance to see Infinity taking on Delta Stars, and Infinity's a team that I haven't got to cast yet either.
Just realized, indeed, they have the same team tag as Influence Rage, so we'll try not to make that mistake too many times. Of course, they have different colors, but in the heat of the moment, your eyes can deceive you in that regard. Delta Stars were able to get the trade and the revive, so they stay up as a full squad. They have some great positioning, Elite, to get the trade on board initially, and like I said, shut the door from Infinity, who have, unfortunately, just not the right setup in that regard. To split north and south doesn't really make any real sense, whereas you can see that the Stars prioritized the southern side of Yasnaya and swung through the buildings that way, and it really worked out a little bit more fairly for them. Looking at phase 1 to begin with, it is over towards that western side, so there will be a cluster of teams coming in from the east. XSET and Honor Soul face each other.
Yeah, XSET getting ready for this push down by the beach. Honored Souls are trying to get all the members wrapped around kill switch, but here comes the crash. We've now got a full complement of players. Jay dips in below the stairs. Polog tosses that nade out through the window. I think it was a stun grenade, which will buy a little bit of time, but these are very big fights for both of these sides. Polog is just looking over his shoulder, trying to locate these players. One of them is going to get tagged, but Jay is still playing that role. One member of Honored Souls down, and I think Polog has just spotted out Nino off in the distance as well. Jay picks up that point, just jumping out that window frame as XSET look to prove why they were so dominant in PMPL NA, and you know, these players, they're competitors, they're winners.
Jay comes in to get the second knock, trade comes through and instantly finish off. That puts Honored Souls down to just a duo. It's really simple stuff. Honored Souls were the team to initially crash in, and although they crashed in maybe without fully knowing there was only 2 players there, they still crashed in Whereas compared to XSET, who looked to close off this team fight, Honored Souls did nothing but just really stand there. Right? There's no proactivity. Whereas you can see with XSET, the way they were moving, Polo G was swinging through on his footsteps. You saw Seven moving around. What that does is, even though it can technically expose you a little bit to where you are, when you have yourself moving around all the time, it creates a level of confusion on where exactly you are as a player, right? It actually takes away that information onto the opposing team. So XSET played that engagement beautifully. They were very proactive and they got that deserving squad wipe.
You'd say they accept the pace in that engagement, could you?
Oh, yes.
You
oh,
could.
yes.
This gunfight still going on inside Yaz between Delta Stars and Infinity, and this is one of those gunfights that's going to be long, protracted out. I think there's a general rule of thumb when you get into these urban warfare zones that you keep a specific, not distance between players, but I like to call it, Imperium, a time. So you always want to be within 10 seconds of sprinting away from your teammates so that if there's an engagement, if they're knocked, you can try prevent them from being eliminated out of the map. And in a map like Yaz, you can actually look like you're relatively close to your team, but due to the layout, it can take quite a bit of time to close those gaps.
Yeah, definitely it can. So you always got to be aware of that. And that's where communication can be key. And as an IGL, you kind of make sure you have your players rounded up in the right direction, depending on where you're looking to rotate to, what kind of phase you're inside, etc., etc. And obviously, based on the information you have on how teams drop around you in that regard, looking towards BULUC CHABTAN, who are on those south George crates. They do have VIVO keyed in the buildings to the west of them. They have Alpha 7 in North George above them. They should be a little bit aware of that, despite that playing path being central and making it a bit harder to access that George Paul area. A couple of vehicles is always going to get you there, and it was the case for VIVO keyed Alpha 7 and BULUC CHABTAN.
Yeah, and if I know you, Imperium, I know you love container fights, especially in the late game. But all these teams, they're getting mobile. That rotation roulette has begun as teams make their way into the zone. And it shouldn't be too difficult because you could probably draw a line down from Zarki all the way to Primo. And the vast majority of teams that are in the zone would be within a couple of 100 meters of that line that you would draw. And what that means is it's just getting very, very busy in and around Yatka, McDonald's, down by Shrek's Swamp as well. And it actually does all these teams that are outside the zone a lot of favors.
It does, and that's why when you have the kind of more volatile, one-sided circle inside kind of phase 1, phase 2, you're nearly always better off waiting that little bit longer to rotate into the edge of the circle and exit. Of course, looking to take advantage of that against ATON.
Yeah, Kill Switch is demobilizing that UAZ, and that's not very lucky for him, who's over by the tree. Now he needs to drop those smokes, create some sort of visibility wall for his teammate. Maybe call an Uber, get somebody down to give you a little bit of a pickup. But XSET wasting no time on getting on the move as well. This fight between ATON and XSET getting ready to kick off. Choco looking through the windows, drops down around the corner and falls to his knees as well as two members of ATON now in very, very dire straits. Fran up the hill, Lucky smoke walling his way to try help out his fallen teammate, but it's just not looking good for ATON. XSET 4 eliminations already, on the verge of making it 5. But let's jump on over. Rise Esports getting crashed on by Lazarus. Spray coming in from Mufasa. He hits the knees. And Senate gets ready to toss that utility. Shots come in, though. It makes him fall back. Rise Esports. One member is injured. But it's a 3v3. You spoke about Lazarus earlier in their very impactful game number 1. Well, game number 2 could be a lot quieter for them.
Lots of smokes being looking to see Lazarus maybe disengage away from this, cut their losses, but of course they're going to be walking into the loving arms of a couple of other teams. The Senate Texas picks off Joey Rafina. The third party comes in. Rise don't know what to do with it. It is going to be the side of Delta Stars that come into play. The Senate Texas finishes off the side of Lazarus Joey, and that's going to, of course, look to see them be put back up as a three-person team. Inside the smokes, Nunes getting the revive onto Mufasa.
Yeah, but that'll be Elite picking up the point on the fears. Delta Stars never one to shy away from a third party, especially in those critical couple of seconds at the end of the first fight when teams just work on getting the med kits up. Looks like Delta Stars, though, they've completely guerrilla warfare that they've dropped off. Actually, it looks like, are they moving into it? But let's jump on over to Loops now. As Chief dancing around the bottom of this Wizard Tower. Nova, third party in it as well. Loops at 2 eliminations as Menor will fall to his knees. But he should be able to crawl on inside. Great Molly comes on and QZZ falls as Loops wipe out Nova. And the team in second place overall are down and out of map number 2 on the night. And as I look through that standings board on the right, so many teams are fighting with a hand behind their back already.
Rise go down, Delta Stars, the third party, paid off, and they will get themselves up as a full squad as Escanor is knocked down on his knees, but the revive comes just in time as Phase 2 Blue Zone is starting to close in. XSET picked off the majority of ATON, who are now down to just one player, and they're looking to swing in towards the eastern side of the circle. I don't know exactly what happened to Nova, considering they landed around that Gaka area. I do say the split that they had comes with its own risks, but it seemed like it was just an uneducated push on the Loops, and Loops had the information, they had the spread, they had the position to really punish Nova. Of course, paid the ultimate price, getting squad up on towards the top of the South Gaka Hill.
Yeah, well, one of the things I like about Nova is the fact that they fancy their chances in any engagement, regardless of how many play. You know, if it's a 2v4, they're like, all right, lads, let's give it a go. Let's see if we can win this one out. And
so true.
It leads to some fantastic clips. It also leads to little situations like that where they get wiped out. But, you know, as a caster, I am all for it. Nova, do not change for anybody.
Yeah, and I always prefer to see a team that's willing to take risk, push their limits, you know, be aggressive rather than a team that's more passive, because the only way you learn is by trying, failing, and then you build on it, and then you succeed, of course, in the games where it matters. Lovely DP28 shots by Swaggin to pick up a knock onto one of the CHABTAN players. You don't directly need to push it. However, with Phase 3 shifting up and centering quite nicely, they are outside of this Phase 3 circle.
Yeah, they're prioritizing moving, and you know that not every knock is about getting a point. It's about creating space to move. BULUC CHABTAN, they would love a little bit of space here as they're taking on Alpha 7. Correo getting hungry, ready to feast. We know what he can do. One of the MVPs of last season. Revo, though, completely outmaneuvers another member of BULUC CHABTAN. As Alpha 7 are taking lots of names and no casualties. Medeon has just fallen out of this one. He's driven away, and you know, it goes from bad to worse. You get away from Alpha 7 and you drive into the waiting arms of Influence Rage.
It's the way the cookie crumbles, and the world of not only PUBG Mobile, but specifically the America's Elite League. VIVO key to hold on to the western side of the circle on a 4-man spread. A great spread inside this phase 3, considering it's going to always be a more, a less congested area of these kind of circles, right? Teams swing in from the east is predominantly the case. You have Influence Rage holding on to 2-2 split. Delta Stars off the back of their squad right onto Rise Esports. They're coming in a little bit later. They're coming in as a full squad. They still have to be careful.
You have to. You always have to be aware of your surroundings and what's going on. Because of the nature of the players in this lobby, they could wipe you at any time, and QUESO nearly learned that the hard way as his head became the target. Elite getting into it now with the members of Infinite. We need to, you know, when we look at the kill feed, we have to be very hard, or very hard pressed to know who is at who. But ATON Esports now finding it out with XSET, who've had a phenomenal start to game number 2. Fran is medkitting up, but those nades are just digging away, chipping at that helmet, chipping at that vest. Fran, though, is going to get wiped by Jay as ATON 7 fall in 13th place. XSET now 8 eliminations with 4 players alive and kicking, and they've pretty much guaranteed a nice little point tally for themselves regardless of what happens from this point on.
Down to 12 teams, 40 players inside this phase 3 as the blue zone is getting towards the tail end. Delta Stars got an opening knock on towards the members of Influence Rage, but they didn't really push it enough, and they've allowed Influence Rage to join back up as a full squad inside the Gatka buildings. Like I said, they had a 2-2 split initially. Now they're joined up. Delta Stars, for the most part, still in my eyes, have potential level of control inside this fight. However, Elite takes a hell of a lot of damage, is whittled down, has to pull off a first aid.
It goes for that first aid. So much utility has been thrown inside Gatka as a layer of mist, a layer of fog descends on the action. Elite not wasting any more time, throwing out more as it just continues to get heavier and heavier. But the longer this goes on, with Gatka being exactly where it is outside the zone, the longer it'll stunt these teams, and a business decision being made now by Delta Stars. Prioritizing prio.
There's some risks around that where they could have lost a player in the disengagement, but with how quick they pull off that engagement based on the smokes that they had laid down, I gotta give a lot of respect to Delta Stars. So many other teams will hesitate, they fumble, they go and do we, don't we? Whereas Delta Stars are like, look, the circle shifting, we haven't been able to gain control of this fight, let's just disengage away.
Yeah, they've disengaged, but they've re-engaged now with loops up on top of the hills. Toiko spraying them down. Little spray comes in. Cardozen gets Elite onto his knees. And Toiko wrapping around. Look at Cheap as well. They're wrapping in noose around the Delta Stars. They're trying to turn that star into a black hole of points. But Loops get hit back. Escanor now falls, but he's going to get dropped by Cardozen, and Loops win that engagement. They have 8 eliminations now too, but they're hampered as they have lost, I believe it was Chief.
Yeah, they didn't need to lose Chief in that engagement. Just a little bit unfortunate level of timing in that regard, but in the end they come out on top. XSET now looking to take advantage as the sprays through the smoke. It's going to be a kill switch. They're switching it on, and down goes Loops. I love America's Elite League. It just kicks off so heavily inside these fights.
Yeah, we're in a 7th party now as Influence Rage have popped up the hill. We've got Boring pushing up as well. There's so many teams fighting it out for this hill just beside those Gatka fields. Federal using the terrain to his advantage. This is one of the things that you can do in PUBG Mobile. Have a look over the hill, see where your targets are, cook that nade. Is he Gordon Ramsay, or is he the woman who used to work in my canteen? Well, he's not Gordon Ramsay this time with the way that nade has been cooked, that's for sure.
XSET doing a great job looking to try and get a counter position on towards the members of Influence Rage on the underside of the hill. Influence Rage look to be in a good spot, but there's also a lot of insecurity around that area where you're kind of locked in, and Alpha 7 third party to get the knock for the home. However, Sam looking to deal the same, and he does that onto Mafioso.
That is a beautiful shot, and now he's got QUESO lined up between the sights, and QUESO gets on the move, and Mafioso is down. Swagun is down as well, and it looks like QUESO's decided that Swagun is the one to be res. Spec looking up towards Vito Keed. We didn't see them in map number 1, so interesting to see what they can do in map 2, but Polog, XSET, 10 eliminations already. They have almost met Alpha 7's full kill tally over 2 days and 1 map alone. This is a great start by them. Jay, 10 eliminations, Cooking that nade over the hill, tosses it over the branches. It doesn't find any resistance. It also doesn't find any targets as it falls harmlessly off in the distance. Nades being thrown by both sides as they just try to maneuver everybody around. This is violent chess by both of these sides, and it looks like Influence Rage are going to blink first, and maybe they just jumped the gun and left XSET stranding outside the zone, and that zone shift is a harsh one.
I don't agree with that from Influence Rage. It can work in the earlier circles, despite it not working out for Delta Stars. More in a higher percentage works out in the earlier circles, but in the later circles, you're generally walking away from one team into the arms of another without really being protected from that team behind you, and it allows you to get kind of third-party sandwich in that regard. So far, so good for Influence Rage, but that's the only team, except weren't really positioned to take full advantage of the disengagement.
Yeah, and in those third-party sandwiches, you don't want to be the meat. You want to be one of those slices of bread closing on in from either side to serve up a meal. Spec just looking over his shoulder again. He's got level 3 gear. Got an M4. He's inside Shrek Swamp, but unfortunately nobody popping up just yet as Lord Farquaad hasn't pushed all of these teams inside there just yet. But Influence Rage and Vivo Key, they're on the move. XSET are there. Vivo Key, look at this move from Vivo Key, getting crashed now by Infinity. They're inside the shack, but they managed to hold back the fight for just a little bit longer. Vivo Key, look at this Infinity Esports. Somehow they got a point in that, but Vivo Key finally pick up the kill, but with 2 members knocked, 1 member standing, Vivo Key may just struggle with what's left of this one. XSET, still 4 players alive and kicking, but it's just all action inside phase 5.
Influence Rage now going up against Alpha 7. It was only a matter of time. Alpha 7 had a player knocked earlier on, but I believe the revive came through. But now one of their players is knocked in return as Influence Rage looking to open that door. Nice molly swinging on through, and Nay being cooked up by Mafioso, looking to slow down Influence Rage. And I believe that's XSET Killswitch taking out Federal.
Yeah, Killswitch engaged and gets the kill, and now Flaw is going to toss a nade up over the hill towards Revo, but it's just a little bit short. Mafioso is going to send one back the other way. Alpha 7 caught between a rock and a hard place, and Law is the hard place as another member of Alpha 7 will fall. They've got 2 members standing, 1 on their knees. XSET on 11 eliminations now as they are clear of the rest of the pack. The zone shift again, though. Look at that.
It's a crazy circle shift. Road split in the middle. Boring Protocol couldn't ask for a better shift as Law looks to try and stay alive. We got a double knock on towards Alpha 7, but he couldn't really take advantage of it because of the third party from XSET earlier on, and in the end, Alpha 7 get rid of him for Influence Rage.
Yeah, 5 teams left, just 2 full rosters alive and kicking. XSET still just dominating this lobby right now. 3 seconds, though, until they need to move. They're on the fast side of the circle. They're the furthest ones away from home. And now is time to get on the move. Jay driving on in. Mafiosa and Alpha 7, they're also outside the zone looking in, but maybe they can take down XSET on that rotate. Team QUESO, they're inside. They're making their way inside. Oh, no.
XSET had to go for it. Realistically, I kind of get it in the end. Jay is outside in towards the fields, trying to use what he can to stay alive inside this game. As poor Protocol defending their honor, defending the swamp.
Yeah, they are doing the best job they possibly can. Jay still up, doing some damage. Azor pushing on to Killswitch, who's inside the shack. He pre-fires around the corner and says thank you so much for that point, Killswitch, as Azor grabs another point. Jay doing a lot of damage from range as well. We've got 11 players alive. And bye-bye has got... Oh, he says bye-bye to XSET with a beautiful headshot. We got ourselves 3 teams left. Team QUESO, Boring Protocol, and I believe the last couple of members of Alpha 7 just pushing in from the north. But this has been another absolute clinker of a game. Azor gets dunked on by Team QUESO as they just jump on over and melt this resistance from Boring Protocol.
All Alpha 7 have to do is just wait and strike third party at the perfect moment against these two teams. And we're looking at a back-to-back chicken dinner for Alpha 7 in day 3 of the Americas Elite League.
Oh, they're in a great spot, the third party. All these gunshots, this fight between BP and Team QUESO is just doing Alpha 7 so much of a favor. 2 members down now for Boarding Protocol, and it's all down to Carnage. He's the last member standing. Alpha 7 have crashed in on the action as well. They're getting a little bit active now as they can sense the opportunity to get the win. Cunha gets the knock on the spare. That kill confirmed on the spec. 3 teams left. Carnage falls as Boring are going to drop in third place. It's now Team QUESO against Alpha 7. Cunha, full HP. Sue and Ayala, they've taken a little bit of damage, as has Carrillo. But this is 7 players fighting it out for the win in game number 2.
I love the fact that Carrillo just went in towards that building on his own, on the side of the wall, because sending more than one player in came with a lot of risks, and although he gets knocked, it still allows the 2 players in the back line to try and pull something out.
Oh, nice little jiggle peek coming out there from Revo, but he's going to fall to his all of a sudden. Look at the HP of those 3 QUESO players as Mafiosa just sprays them down. He is showing absolutely no respect to them whatsoever, but they fight back hard. Team QUESO get the win in game number 2, and it is just nice to see our favorite cheesy boys getting the win in this one, Imperium.
Yeah, it was always going to be difficult from Alpha 7 in that final fight. Maybe, I would imagine, without them knowing, it was always going to be better for them to keep Boring Protocol alive, because when teams are within reason tracking the elimination feed, they know that it would have just have been a knock rather than the final kill, whereas Alpha 7 getting rid of that final Boring Protocol player kind of said to Team QUESO, hey, this is a 4v3, this is kind of us against another team, just like that. Whereas keeping Carnage alive would have maybe have kept Team QUESO from pushing in, or essentially being a little bit more aggressive onto Alpha 7 as they were.
Yeah, and look, Team QUESO, they played it well. You know, that's exactly what you want to do at the end. You're inside Shrek's swamp, and you look at the teams that they fought off. They fought off Boring Protocol. They fought off what was left, I believe, of Influence Rage, and they beat Alpha 7. That is as tough a bunch of teams to fight at the final circle as you're going to see. But even though they came second, look at Alpha 7 just dominating those offensive stats.
Revo, man. That's pretty much it, right? It's just a Revo and Alpha 7 show, and although it wasn't a back-to-back chicken dinner, I would argue that this game was a more impressive result for Alpha 7, because they were in a lot of battles, they were in a lot of fights, and they really deserved to control and grab the position they got inside this game too, and it's 2 strong results in a row.
Yeah, and looking at those, you know, secondary stats, nice little performance by Infinity, 471 heal points from Achilles. Revo popping up there again, as is Ayala from Team QUESO. But these are the kind of stats that if you're really into your in-depth information, like how much has somebody healed, how much distance are these teams traveling, it gives you a kind of an idea how the teams played that one. But let's look at the ranking from game number 2. Team QUESO, 26 points, but Alpha 7, they must have heard you talking about them, Imperium, at the start, because they have fought back hard today.
They really have. 11 elimination points, like I said. You know, it was arguably a stronger result in this game compared to game 1, despite not getting the chicken dinner. Even the top 3 teams, between the top 3, they got themselves 35 elimination points. That's more than half of the lobby's worth of eliminations in just the top 3 team. Never mind the fact that Loop's got them 8 eliminations, Delta Stars got themselves 8 eliminations. That means in the top 6 you're looking at a total of 51 elimination points, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or something along those lines. That's pretty top heavy.
Yeah, a lot of binary then between the rest of the teams there with all those 1s and 0s. But it just goes to show as well how much Erangel does differ from Sandhawk, because in Sandhawk it's so much easier to third party. Even the teams that go out early normally pick up a point or two. But Team QUESO with the win, 11 eliminations, 1,700 rounds fire. You know, those stats are brilliant. 11 eliminations, 1,700 damage. When you talk about, you know, what is it we like to call it?
Return on investment?
ROI, exactly. So we've got that team in the lobby. Let's talk about it. The ROI for what they're putting out is very good. And QUESO were a team last season that were incredibly hit and miss. You either had a game like this or a 3-point game where they sit in the blue and get some meds up. It really varies from game to game, and they were a team we identified last season that could make massive strides this time around.
And I would argue Season 5 has been much the same so far. When you look at their performances across day 1 and day 2, they had themselves 5, 13, 2 and 2 in the first 4 games, and then 18, 13, 1 and 1 for their second 4 games. So the volatility is still there for Team QUESO. It's just something to highlight and observe, and if we're not seeing that evolve, it does plant a little bit of seed of doubt on how they can really perform across the rest of the America's Elite League Season 5.
Yeah, and I think if you're the optimist like myself, the way I would look at it is, even though you have those poor games, the fact that you're getting lots of good games dotted in between shows that the talent is there. It's just getting that consistency. It would be a lot worse if they were just one of those teams that were incredibly consistent, but they were only picking up 6-7 points a game. So showing that you can pop off is very important as we look at that overall. That game right there moves them right inside that top 5 as well.
It does. But the top 4 divided by 22 points. That's Influence Rage, Nova, Born Protocol, and Honored Souls. Nice to see 2 North America teams in the top 4. Very strong North American teams at that. Let's see if XSET can join up with them. They're certainly on a good roll in that regard. Well, Alpha 7, they've gotten 43 points in games. That's more than their total in the first 8 games. In just 2 games. That's a hell of an improvement from Alpha 7.
It was. They've doubled their kill tally across those 2 games. But we are going to jump into a quick break. When we come back, we'll have map number 3, which is the halfway point of the action. So we'll see you then. Well, hello there, and welcome back. My name is Gibson, this is Imperium, this is America's Elite League, and this is game number 3. And this is the opportunity, Imperium, for some of these teams that had a bad start today to just build some momentum going into the last couple of maps.
Indeed, indeed. But of course, we are once again going to have another game with teams stepping out. That's Boring Protocol, Honored Souls, Influence Rage, and Team QUESO. So as far as I know, that means kind of 3 of our top 5 not playing in this third game of the day. So that does allow a good opportunity for Nova, Alpha 7, for a couple of other teams to really kind of grab as many points as they can in that regard, and just continue to put pressure on the teams around them, right?
Yeah, and pressure, you know, some people will think pressure's for tires, but you know that if you just keep compounding that pressure, something is eventually gonna bust. But I'm looking at the likes of XSET now and expecting them and Alpha 7 to really have a go, because of course this is Alpha 7's last chance to get some points in before their little bit of a break. We're halfway through the action already as we jump back into Sandhawk. And is this going to be as crazy as map number 1, or do you think that the players are going to calm it down?
No, I expect it to be generally just as crazy. Of course, when you introduce different groups of teams, it can either increase or decrease the number of hot drops across the board, right? WALLSTREETBETS are once again still playing in this game along with INCO or INTZ. I forget who it was that they dropped in Paradise Resort with. So that hot drop could still happen. Influence Rage aren't playing in this game, so technically that means it was Lazarus. Yeah, they have bootcamp to themselves. Yeah, again, it can either increase or reduce the number of hot drops.
So what you're saying is this game without them involved is going to be a little bit more on the Rage side, as they're not going to be able to have too much of an influence as we move into game 3. And you know, Imperium, I know that you love doing this since we got involved, so why don't you tell everybody about this flight path?
Flight path is going from around 5 o'clock up towards the 10 o'clock area. Am I right?
You are right, and you know,
still
for
trying
an
to get
Irish
used to it,
person,
man.
for an Irish person getting the times right, it's very difficult, because when we say we're going to be somewhere at 10 o'clock, that means we're going to be there at 11. So, you know, it's just one of those Irish things. I do apologize, unfortunately, because this is America's Elite League. We don't have subtitles. This is so if you don't understand the Irish accents, we can't really do anything about it. We're 2 Irish people.
We could be laying on a lot thicker, my friend. We could be laying it on very thick.
To be fair, I'm going to say that it's thicker than usual anyway, because when the 2 of us cast together, it just gets stronger and stronger across the course of the night, just like Alpha 7.
Bingo. Couldn't have said it better myself. Indeed, it has come to fruition where we're seeing INTZ and WALLSTREETBETS kind of drop on each other towards that Paradise Resort area. Seems like WALLSTREETBETS have once again at least gotten off to a good start, opening the knock onto MEXEZIS. We are a little bit split onto each other. They're putting pressure on the CHABTAN, trying to get the opening knock, while BULUC CHABTAN going up against Delta Stars.
Yeah, great little point on the board for them. Delta Stars pre-firing around the corner as Lou Harden wants to get a little bit of revenge for his fallen teammate. But BULUC CHABTAN have fallen outside the walls, back into the fight inside Paradise, and it's going to turn out to be a false paradise for potentially INCZ. They have lost 3 players to Nox, and the WALLSTREETBETS are just pushing very hard and fast. Swing around the corner. They're not hedging their bets this time, but look at the drop shot from Neto. He wipes them out as INCZ fall in last place. And once again, Sandhawk suiting WALLSTREETBETS. But let's just get back into the action here between BULUC CHABTAN and the Delta Stars. Looks like the Delta Stars are not doing the best here. Either 1 player left alive. BULUC CHABTAN, 3 points. Oh, early game, once again, WALLSTREETBETS showing what they can do.
Yeah, certainly becoming the kings of Paradise Resort, and kind of continue to send the message to INCZ of, look, don't drop here. You're not going to win. I'm impressed with that proactivity from Wall Street Bets. I was worried about the initial spread they had, but of course, based off the fact that they were able to get that initial knock, that initial elimination point, they took that body advantage and rolled with it across the board. Looking at phase one, as we do have a little bit of time, as the early action has kind of died down just a bit for the time being. It's more the northern precipice, but it does still threaten on any part of this Sanhok area, whether it's the mainland, the Northwest Island, or the Southwest Island. Because, for example, in the first game of the day, it looked very heavily on phase 2 to be a Southwest Island finish, and then phase 3 shifted up north to be on the mainland. So again, there's definitely a bit of uncertainty on how teams are going to look to really lock down an area inside this phase 1.
Well, that's it. The PUBG gods can be fickle, they can be cruel, they can be kind. I know as a caster, I know which side I want the PUBG gods to fall on. See that little island that we can see that Escador is just to the north of? I would love a final
toxic,
circle
man.
to be there.
That is
Miriam,
so toxic.
Don't you sit here and act like you're not sitting thinking the exact same thing.
I didn't say I wasn't like I didn't say I wasn't okay with that. I was just pointing out that's toxic. I'm here for it. Bring on the island finish, that tiny little island finish. I'm here for it.
X might mark the spot for one of these teams on the island, but XSET are the spot that's being picked up by INCO Gaming. And Vitali is just using so much trigger discipline right now. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that there ain't no helmet or no vest there, Imperium. So unless it's a guaranteed kill, don't expect any shots fired here.
They're not really in like the most comfortable position up on that Northwest Island. They don't get that much information towards the big mountain on inside Sanhok. And yeah, like you said, the lack of helmet, the lack of vest does make an engagement incredibly risky. In this early part of the game, I might add as well, you don't know where phase 2 is going to shift in that regard, as Rise Esports do get that knock-in elimination onto Wall Street Bets.
And Wall Street Bets, we've managed to see them show off their mechanical ability, but I want to see a little bit more of their macro play as well. I want to see what they can do going into the late game, because in a fair 1v1 fight, they've proven they have what it takes to win those engagements and punch it around with the best. But you're talking about the best, well, Rise Esports definitely fall into that category.
Yeah, like there's always a difference between fighting early game and fighting essentially mid to late game, right? Some teams are better fighting early game than others. Of course, best teams are going to be good at doing both. But also, when you're really looking into it, you want to be a team that's able to fight more strongly into the late game, because if you're only able to fight early game, it's only going to get you so far. In this case, once again, only got Wall Street Bets so far.
Oh, Diego! What a little spray that is into INCO down inside the compound. Not going to be able to confirm it out, I don't think, but that's just a little bit of a BM there from Diego, showing what he can do. Rise as well, looking at what was going on. They're able to get everybody back alive and kicking after they won that gunfight. And this is what we spoke about as well. You can take knocks. You don't need to win a fight with all 4 players standing, but you need all 4 players alive if you want to win these games, because we've seen it time and time again. In a 4v3 in a lobby like this, the 4 wins 90% of the time.
Rise are now in the position that Wall Street Bets were. Well, luckily for them, instead of it being one team, it's kind of 2 teams that are in that area. And I don't think MEXEZIS has any real idea that Rise were there initially of this exact point. Absolutely drop shot coming out.
Oh, I love a drop shot. You can tell I grew up playing some of those games that came out in the mid to late 2000s, as a drop shot is just a thing to behold. Rise Esports, they've got a target and they are spraying through it. Senate. Oh no my way. God, Senate taking everybody to the cleaners as he sprays down those members. Now he turns his attention to the Black Dragons. Pushing up is going to be Duck. cooking that needed. But
What?
oh no! Look at this. Talons is going to fall now as well. As this is just an absolute cluster going on at this building right now. Senate is still alive inside. Duck Zada just tosses another nade through the door. A lot of noise being made by Senate. He's low HP. He's burning. He's like the roof. It's on fire. He drops as those players get the kill. Rise now. 14th they fall. But Black Dragons now. Third party in on the action. Spray comes on out. And Black Dragons, I think, get that knock. Second push comes through. Black Dragons, they're out. As another point gathered from his X's streams.
Look, definitely a little bit lucky from his X's that there was another team there to essentially split the focus from Rise. Because other than that, it probably would have been a Rise engagement win coming out against MEXEZIS Dreams. Look, that's the way the cookie can crumble sometimes, and MEXEZIS were able to not only come out on top of both of those squads, but still hold up as a full squad, which is very positive coming into phase 2, phase 3 onwards. We're down to 44 players, 12 teams. As the blue zone is closing in, you have VIVO Key, who did get a knock on the INCO but weren't able to confirm it, has slowed them down on the south underside of the mountain on towards the eastern coast. So XSET, you have LAZARUS, and over and towards the trifecta area, Loops are holding that position down.
Yeah, and Vitali is just... it feels like we're watching a replay from 5 minutes ago as he's still in the same spot, still looking down at XSET. And, you know, our observers, they're just showing us, like, you know, just keep an eye on this. Absolutely nothing has happened. And you know the way that I spoke about I like the dirty zones, I like cruelty. How's about a phase 2's pop that still keeps all 3 of the main land masses in and 2 of those tiny islands?
It's pretty disgusting because, yeah, okay, the one positive is that you have 44 players left. So like I said, in the first time game squad of 4, that means there's only 40 other players. It opens up the possibility of controlling more of a spread, and setting up for phase 3 is a little bit easier, but there is still that uncertainty. There is still that which way is it going to go, where is it going to send in phase 3, and that means you can be a little bit more uncomfortable, a little bit less focused on what is directly in front of you.
Exactly, and directly in front of Alpha 7 is Nova, and that is short work of Oz, or Q's, sorry, as Q's is going to hit the deck. The DBS finishes it out, but now QUESO wraps down the hill again. Z-Fan staying out of sight, out of mind. But can Alpha 7 spot him out? There he is. There's the backpack. There's the head, shoulders, knees, toes, and the rest as he also hits the deck. And Alpha 7 continue piling on the pressure on the rest of the lobby. Could the real Alpha 7 please stand up? Well, third day is the charm as they keep on picking up points as Nova finally eliminated. 11 teams left, 40 players alive and kicking. And do you know what that means, Imperium? That means nearly everybody has got a full roster.
Pretty much. This is the second game in a row in which Nova has essentially gotten caught out in their own area of the map. And I don't know why, whether it's presumption, whether it's just lackadaisicalness, but it's not something that they should be doing. You know, as early as phase 2, especially in Sandlock, you kind of want to expect teams might head in your direction, might be looking to wrap around inside your area of the map, especially on the hills of that kind of more central area of the Southwest Island. And game 1, they had themselves set up really nicely on a 3-1 split, but like I said, game 2, game 3 just hasn't been the same, and that's a little bit disappointing.
And this is what we spoke about Team QUESO. It's the same idea. Sometimes they're the best team in the lobby, other times they are completely anonymous, and I think that's something else that Nova kind of suffer from. It's it's not a skill thing. They've got the skill, they've got the ability to take down anybody. It's just sometimes they make a bad decision. And look at this, Delta Stars, they're wiped out as BULUC CHABTAN from on high. Rather another elimination for them. This is a much better start. Game number 3 for them too, but now Infinity are the target for Alpha 7. Gamma off in the distance. Swagoon looking that way off in the distance. Fakuls is over there as well, but really Swagoon is just waiting for that head to pop on out, and he slams it, Imperium.
That's some great teamwork, some great communication, and some great suppressing fire coming out from all of the Alpha 7 players. Look at the spread they have on towards that hillside. Multiple angles of cover. They have a 1-2-1 split. They could look to take a little bit more of an aggressive advantage off that initial knock, but again, they're still grabbing the information. Creo wrapping around on towards the underside. That is just going to continue to lay pressure on towards Infinity Esports. However, Zoha does get a counter knock on the Mafioso.
Says don't mess with the Zohan as he gets that knock onto Alpha 7, falls back into a little bit of cover. This also gives Gamarcy the time to just man up, throw out some smoke. It looks like I'm not sure if that's, once again, it's so hard to read the kill feed when you don't. Oh, look at that spray from Creo. Zohan does get messed with. He hits the deck. And now we've got 10 teams left, but Infinity, they're still alive. There's still a chance in this engagement. Gamma up there in a little bit of a distance. Cruz gets the knock onto Revo as this gunfight continues to carry on, and I'm looking at what is going on. They're very far outside the zone. The zone shift went to the north, and the losers of this gunfight are going to be gate-kept hard by those teams inside the zone already.
Alpha 7's hesitancy of the initial knock is kind of going to bite them in the butt per se. Don't get me wrong, I understand why they took their time, because they didn't get the information. But that's why I call it hesitancy, because it looked like they were edging towards the full engagement, but because of the time and the lack of information, they not only allowed the revive to come through to keep Infinity Esports up as a full squad, but again, they got counter knocked, counter eliminated, and now they're whittled down to just a solo. The circle did up more on towards this phase number 3. You have Lazarus in a 3-1 split, holding on to the eastern coastline, punishing ATON.
Yeah, and they're trying to shoot fish in the barrel in the water as well as a nade is tossed over by Joey. He's got so much cover, and because of that little over-the-shoulder look too, he's going to be difficult to spot out for ATON. But he ain't going to be difficult to spot out for Choco. He forgot about Choco over on the other side of the river. And that is Joey down. Not out just yet, though, as Fears tosses that nade. That's an interesting way to go fishing right there. And Choco takes a lot of damage, jumps back into the water, and tries to swim over to safety. 33 players alive, 10 teams fighting, 16 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. The zone shift still keeps 3 land masses inside. But, you know, if we can't get the island finish, what about a Camp Alpha mountain range finish?
You're asking for a big ask in my eyes. I could see a more mountainside finish, but I kind of look at this next phase as heading a bit more towards the south area, near the tri area, maybe a little bit of the mainland still in play. Remains to be seen. Still good for Vivo Kitas. They have a 4-man spread. McGrellin holding on to the northwestern side, just making sure nobody comes in from behind. Adrian, Cielo, Diego then covering all angles between the east, south, and the southwest.
And these teams are just, once again, getting forced closer and closer together. The little dinosaur. Stoico is just watching his back. Godzilla's got a little bit smaller than I remembered back in the past as Demonor gets ready to cross the river as well. Loops, they have not really got up and going as well, but if they can get Cardozan on form, there ain't many better players in this lobby.
XSET centering up a little bit more nicely than I expected. He's on towards the northwest side. XSET pushing in, trying to take control. It's going to be trades on board between both XSET and INCO.
Oh, XSET, they have had a phenomenal day so far, and they're looking to continue adding to it. Becker going for the res. Lion shooting over towards ATON as this fight between Lazarus and them continues to go on. And INCO are just across the ways. Up on the hill, you've got VIVO, Keyed, BULUC, CHABTAN are in the area as well. So this is getting very, very busy over here. Something has got to give between these sides. Loops have aggressed on up inside this compound as well. And just across the road, just across the way, is that last member of XSET. Milos, though, shooting those fish in a barrel, as we continue to say. And look at this. This could be as easy a couple of points as Milos has ever grabbed.
The CHABTAN up on the northern side, relatively untouched right now. Loops are indeed pushing in. INCO are gonna, actually, sorry, it's Infinity Esports that are just gonna roll right past him into the loving arms of INCO's compound. Toiko is gonna get spotted. J7, he had no idea where he is, and down J7 goes.
A couple more points for that. Next set have dropped on out as well. 8 teams left. VIVO Keyed have got no eliminations. Alpha 7 have 4, but they've got 1 player left. Swagoon outside the zone. And different players play things different ways. Swagoon is not a blue zone healer, is he? He's going to look to punch his weight around, make himself known, and just steal away as many kills as he can here too.
Right for ATON, because all they have to really do is watch what is directly in a 180-degree precipice, right? They know that there's absolutely nothing behind them at this stage of the game. It is still important that they become proactive from this position. They pick off an elimination here, an elimination there, because there's no guarantee that the circle on the next shift is going to stay on that coastal line position.
Oh, the coastline is a tough spot to get out of as well. Look at all that open ground to cover. Lion looking through the windows, looking through the doors, and the zone shifts way down to the southwest. VIVO Keyed in a phenomenal position. And I'm looking around the rest of the way. Infinity, they've still got a man alive and kicking inside there. INCO, they're pretty happy with this one. But as I look up towards BULUC, CHABTAN, they've got a tough rotate to make. But most importantly, Imperium, they're not hanging about. They're already on the way.
Props to ATON. I like the way that they are being proactive, recognizing that time is of the essence, right? Only 13 seconds and counting until the blue zone starts to close in on phase 5. Phase 5 is where it really starts to hurt. What's important is that they use that time advantage to get information leading into the edge of the circle. They see Loops on the third perspective. Chuko is going to wait, take his time. He's going to spot those Loops players on the edge of the hill.
Oh, he spots them, and not only that, he sprays them down, gets 1 knock onto the players from Loops as they make their way in. And you spoke about that blue zone. Well, phase 1, that's a little bit of a tickle on the back. Phase 5 is like getting a back scratch from a tiger. It just does not work out very well at all. The little watch point, the last member of Infinity is prone inside, and he's hoping that the members of VIVO Keyed can keep these players and pick up more points for them as Kazeki sprays down ATON 7, spots out a headshot, manages to land it. 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot, 4 ATON 7 players hitting the deck as damage being piled on everywhere. Lazarus now, players dropping that way too, but Fran picks it up. BULUC, CHABTAN racing the blue zone inside, trying to just find somewhere to play. But this for Lazarus up on the hill. VIVO Keyed, BULUC, CHABTAN getting into a gunfight now, and it's just getting busy. Imperium.
I'm a little bit surprised VIVO Keyed hasn't really third-partied more of these engagements on top of the hillside. The BULUC, CHABTAN trying to deal with the pressure, holding on, hooking to the edge of the cliff. They're down to just a duo. INCO used their building advantage to their name. But of course, the next circle has centered a little bit down south on the edge of the mountainside. They will have to shift down. It's going to be easier said than done as Lutz pay the price.
Oh, that shift is absolutely horrific for everybody not named Vivo Keyed as well. 3 teams left. And BULUC CHABTAN, they fall. Adrian now piles on the pressure onto INCO. And he can just fall back behind that cliffside. Spix' time to shoot on to Vitaly as well. Vitaly is dropped. It's just Becker and Golden, the last 2 members of INCO playing inside, make that one left as Adrian is just destroying their hopes of getting a win. Just one other team left, and they're just doing a little bit of blue surfing, a little bit of medding it up. But Vivo Keyed have arrived in style to this map as Golden is now dropped to that zone.
Yeah, nothing Becker can do, and like I said, Vivo Keyed maybe could have done a little bit more in terms of third partying from the top of the mountain. At the end of the day, when they did it right, and that's going to be the end of Honored Soul. I think not Honored Souls, but INCO, and I don't know who it is that's gone down, or who's the last player standing. I don't know who it is, but there you go. Infinity Esports. Zohan still has 23 first aids. What in the blue hell?
Is that a pun on the blue zone? Is that what?
No, that wasn't even a pun, but Jesus, like.
Oh, this is an absolutely horrible spot for the members of Vivo Keyed. Now, Vivo Keyed, they just have to wait.
Yeah.
Zohan is just going to keep on delaying the game. So I suppose this is a time to ask you a very, very important question right now, Imperium. This is a very specific regional question.
Oh, okay.
Tato or King?
Tato.
Yeah, easy. For those of you back home, they're brands of chips, by the way.
Did you know they're actually made by the same company?
It's just the absolute monopoly of the Irish food market.
Yeah.
Adrian
fun fact, like.
And look at this, Adrian's just doing a nice little Irish jig. He must know who is commentating tonight as he gives us that little bit of a killie. But look, time goes by slowly. This is the situation that you find yourself in sometimes in PUBG Mobile. You know, it's almost like when a goal goes in and VAR has happened, but everybody knows it's a goal anyway. The hype is gone from the moment. Congratulations to Vivo Keyed on a huge win. But Zohan is just living his moment in the limelight.
Yeah, to be fair, kind of much needed win from Vivo Keyed when you look at where they were lying coming into at least day 3 of the games, right? We highlighted them as a team that we shouldn't have seen down in the bottom half of the standings, but it was the case after 2 game days. Now they can finally kick off their America's League run inside day 3 with a chicken dinner on the 3rd game of the day. Good result from Infinity Esports, getting themselves second off the back of a heel strat. INCO definitely also put in their own positive fight to get a good 3rd place result.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about those placements. Like Infinity, Zohan has got himself a couple of placements now. I don't know why he's delaying this game on out, because surely Vivo Keyed have more than enough meds to win this one too, even if it did get into one of those final point situations.
Technically, he doesn't know that it's only 1 team left, right? He just sees it as 3 other players in the lobby. There could have been a 2-1-1 in that regard, right? And that could have given him. So that, I think that's obviously the reason why he healed up until the bitter end.
Yeah, and the bitter end, we were made to wait for it, but it was worth it for Vivo Keyed as they had a fantastic game. BULUC CHABTAN wiped out by them. INCO wiped out from they were kings of the hill, kings of the lobby, as they picked up quite a few points in that map. But that's the 3rd map of the night. We've only got 2 more to go tonight, Imperium, and it feels like some of these teams are just getting started now.
Yeah, of course. It's time for them not to really kick off with 2 more games left are fast paced and frantic, considering the fact that we've 3 standout games in tonight's games. Look, Sanhok is a different beast, but I do have to ask why Vivo Kid were allowed to hold onto the mountain on their own for so long. I know there was a level of uncertainty around what part of the map it was going to end in between the Northwest Island and the Southwest Island and the mainland, but I still look at the fact that the playing path was less on that western side, where another team could have pushed a little bit earlier towards that mountain on the Northwest Island.
I agree with you. Nobody came up from the south at all and pushed from the camp, so it gave Vivo Kid an absolutely easy win. And as we looked at it, Adrian, 7 eliminations, 722 damage. That is just pure efficiency from him. And Vivo Kid didn't come alive until the late game, but for players of their skill, when you're on top of the mountain just looking down onto an open valley watching players running on in, it feels like a practice mode. It's surely just target practice for them.
It's like you know, Space Invaders, right? Where they're just all lined up and all you have to do is go pew 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 pew, and it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Like I said, they probably could have done it a bit earlier to pick up a couple of extra elimination points, but either way, secure the job done. They get themselves a chicken dinner.
Yeah, chicken dinner for them. 25 points to go with it. INCO Gaming gets second place. Infinity healed their way up to 15 points as well in third place. Alpha 7 continued their decent day, 11 points. You consider today's point tally and you look at the previous two. Alpha 7 have only just arrived to AEL today. BULUC CHABTAN coming in 5th, and when I look down towards the bottom side of the table, for the first time tonight, XSET not living up to their high expectations.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, but you can afford yourself kind of one bad result within a day's set of games in that regard, so I won't really hold it against them. Lazarus, once again, picking up a bunch of points with 5 eliminations, 2 placements, 7 in total. Showing their aggression, showing their worth across the America's Elite League. It's good to see. I gotta wonder, are Alpha 7 now kind of in the top 5 with still one more game to go for themselves, 2 in the day in total? I certainly wouldn't be surprised, because Team QUESO weren't playing in this game in that regard, right? And a couple of other teams in around the top 5 area also weren't playing or got a bad result.
Yeah, let's have a look at your winners. Vivo Kid, 10 eliminations, 1600 damage, and 9 knocks as well. Great performance by them. The utility numbers, maybe because of the position they played, they didn't have to use the smokes at all, Imperium. They had as much hard cover as you could dream of.
Yeah.
So 12 nades, probably a little bit low as well, because once again, why toss nades when you can just pick up those easy headshots on the spray? So for a Sanhok game and for a winning team, it's probably one of the lower sides of the utility usage.
Yeah, it is, and that's gonna be the case in the matches, like you highlighted, between the position they were in with that hard cover and the fact that they only really had to rely on the bullets of their guns in that regard. Nice to see Adrian up there in terms of MVP of the game, and this guy has been on my radar pretty much since the very start of Season 3 when I first saw Vivo Kid. Not only as a team, but individually, Adrian is an absolute star of PUBG Mobile in the LATAM region, and shined once again in this game.
Yeah, and the massive, he was brilliant in Rocky as well. Gotta say, I was really impressed by him in the Rocky films. As Jesus we move into the overall rankings, Influence Rage still on 122 points. Of course, they didn't add to that because they did not play in that map, and they'll be glad to see that, like you said, most of the teams in the top 4 didn't play. So nothing ventured, nothing gained for them. Alpha 7 just closing that gap a little bit more by the map. INCO Gaming as well, getting closer and closer to that top 4. But you look at that points distribution as a whole. Influence Rage are on 122 points right now. All the way down to MEXEZIS Dreams is 71. That is only 51 points.
Yeah.
That's two good games, Imperium.
Wow.
Well, sorry, 3 good games.
I actually didn't really observe that, so that's nicely done, Gibson. So there's a lot of scope for teams right down in the bottom half of the standings to really, of course, boost themselves up and in the top 5. Of course, Alpha 7, they're premium, but if they can do it, it is possible for other teams.
It is possible indeed, but we are going to jump into a quick break. When we come back, we'll have our penultimate game. So get your snacks, get to the bathroom, and we'll race you back. This is America's Elite League. My name is Gibson. That is Imperium. We're back. You're back. The players are back. And Imperium, we've just 2 more maps left to play tonight. But let's have a look at what group is just going to have a little bit of a break going into map number 4.
Boom! Group D are out of the mix. That is Alpha 7, Delta Stars, Lazarus, and Rise Esports. So Alpha 7 deserving strong first 3 games. You can take a little bit of a break and then come into the final game of the evening. Once again, all guns blazing. We reintroduce Influence Rage, Boring Protocol, Honored Souls, Team QUESO for the 4th game of the day.
Oh, and this is our last trip to Erangel, and this is just, this map is home. When you think of PUBG Mobile, this is where it all began. The green, the grass, the islands, it just makes me feel like we're watching proper PUBG Mobile and PUBG Mobile action. I love this map. But whenever you tie it in with Sandhawk, the games are very different. You know, we looked at game number 1 and 3 in Sandhawk, where nearly every team picked up a kill. Whenever you get into games on Erangel, this is the one where the better teams really can farm.
Yeah, it is. I'm excited for the 4th game of the day as the map is here. Straight down the middle, going from 12 o'clock to pretty much 6 o'clock, maybe, you know, and to 6 in that regard. But yeah, it is straight down the middle, right into the heart of the map, as you said on the previous Erangel game. So will allow great scope for these teams to go to pretty much wherever they want. The one question is, once we have 2 to 3 teams drop in around that Yasnaya area.
Yeah, well, it's a player's map, or a player's flight path, but will it be a player's zone? This is what these guys want to see, and I think I'll be nice. I'm going to be nice caster this time. I'm going to say I'd like a nice normal zone to see these players do their thing, because I want the teams that haven't really got up and running yet to be able to play the game to perfection. Because Imperium, some of these teams go for these far off drop spots because they like, you know, they're used to playing from the outside and working their way in.
Yeah.
When they find themselves center zone, they don't know what to do.
They really don't. As we're gonna see the dispersion of teams throughout this drop area, and seems like it's going to be the case as Influence Rage getting close to infinity. But of course, without Delta Stars inside this game, it makes it a little bit easier for infinity to spread out around the Yasnaya area. Fate pops up, and it's a good start. It complements the playing path a little bit to the east, but once again, just allows great scope for these teams to lock in wherever they want to off the back of the looting phase inside this phase 1.
And the irony right now of this map as well, considering it's got 2 Irish casters, it's gone ahead and thrown Potato Hill slap bang in the middle. And let's see if any of those players get chipped trying to make their way up onto it.
You asked if it was Taylor or King in the last game. Well, let's see who can become King of the Hill inside this game number 4. Loops heading over towards the eastern side. XSET and Honored Souls once again fighting toward the same compound, and a similar setup to begin with, right? Honored Souls pushing, at least initially, more as a full squad. XSET have a 2-2 split. Who will be the first to make a move? XSET can grab that early information, maybe have XSET come in from behind, provide that support, or Honored Souls. Will they do the same thing and just stay as quiet as a mouse and end up getting knocked? I hope they've learned from the mistakes of the last game.
You took the words out of my mouth. This battle for Sharkfin, you called it Honored Souls. They didn't, they didn't stick or twist. They did nothing, and they allowed XSET to wrap around them, and that's why XSET won. And Imperium, I'm seeing straight away, they're being more proactive. They're being more mobile. As I always say, mobility is winnability.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Jay, It's going to be put under pressure as Honor Souls are definitely being a little bit more mobile than we've seen so far. Getting on towards the roof of the warehouse is a great way of just kind of distracting the teams of your opponents. But Nino maybe goes a little bit too deep. Has to try and disengage and pays the price. Polo G gets a knock.
Yeah, the Superman landing not helping whatsoever, but here comes Pedrinho, gets that kill confirmed, or the elimination confirmed onto Jay, as Honored Souls just keep piling on the pressure to XSET. XSET started the day so well, but now they're at a real risk now of being punished by Honored Souls, and it looks like those members are going to fall. XSET fall in 16th place, and Honored Souls, like good students, they failed the first exam, they went home, they studied, they learned their lesson, and they came back and aced it next time around.
I can't argue with that. To be fair, good stuff from Honored Souls to kick off this fourth game of the day. And unfortunately, XSET are going to be the victims in that one, and it's going to go from bad to worse for them inside this day 3 of the Americas Elite League. VIVO keyed. INTZ, they're both in towards the George Paul area between the crates and south building circuit, so they're going to have to be aware of each other coming in towards the rotations of this phase 1. MEXEZIS Dreams dropped in towards the Severny area. They would have been the first team to drop and loot, therefore in theory they should be one of the first teams to really kind of start rotating in towards this phase 1. It's a bit tricky for them because on that northern side of the river, it's the smallest part of that phase 1 circle right on the north of the river, so they're just gonna have to be a little bit more careful. The good thing is that they can at least use that early rotation to edge closer to Rosehawk, grab a bit of information and wait for the teams south of that river, such as WALLSTREETBETS and BULUC CHABTAN, to go a little bit deeper inside this phase 1 circle. And yeah, MEXEZIS will, in that domino effect, have a bit more space around them.
Yeah, and it's phase 1. You know, we've seen players tank loads of damage in phase 7, so a lot of these teams, they might wait and move after a couple of zones, and there's a world as well where they just rotate up by Stalber and come back down through Kameshki. The possibilities for rotates here are endless. But you know, I'm a caster. When I say there's a rotation path, I gotta be proven wrong, and Law is going to get a little bit of a point on. A little guerrilla warfare, hit and run, get back on the move as you drive past that yellow. Kariowski has to be careful though now. The M249.
Oh my god. What in the blue blazing hell is going on?
Well, you know what that was? That was as mad as getting a bag and filling it full of spiders. It was as mad as a bag of spiders there, Imperium.
Like... oh no, man.
Speechless.
I know I'm tired, but I'm definitely a little bit dumbstruck at what exactly happened. I don't really hold that against MEXEZIS Dreams in terms of going where they were going. I just don't know if I'm really not sure if they engaged on Influence Rage or if it was the other way around. Either way, Influence Rage had their wits about them and they came out on top, and this game continues.
So, to the players of those two teams, you've just silenced two Irishmen, and I don't think you realize how difficult a task that is to do. But we were left a little bit speechless there for a second. While all that was going on, a lot of the teams have started moving into the zone, and Imperium, why don't you talk us through the possibilities for these teams that are around the edge of the zone? Because, you know, you're a bit of a zone whisperer sometimes.
I definitely wouldn't say I am. No, I genuinely don't, because I think it can be often quite difficult to predict where the circle is going to go. So I try to put myself in the mind of a player, but also bring the whole percentage game into play. It's quite difficult in this specific game because of how even that playing path was and how even that phase 1 circle is. So it really requires the teams to understand where their opponents drop and where they're predictably going to be. What I don't take into account is just the craziness of teams chasing each other, and that's what we're seeing right now.
It is, and it's entertainment, but before the zone pops, because it's only a couple of seconds away, I want this to go hard north or hard south. I want water to be at the heart of the zone, so players have to make a decision, get forced in towards each other. The zone does shift, and instead of going north or south, it pretty much went as far west as it could have went.
More importantly, Potato Hill is still in the heart of the circle as INCO and VIVO keep engaging each other. To be fair, both of these teams do drop in towards the George Paul area, right? So I said they needed to be careful of each other. This seems to be the other way around, but none of these teams really kind of heavily coming out on top. McGarland is down. Adrian, of course, is down on towards his knee, but with the counter not coming, might allow to revive to be played out. It's just one player left for INCO.
Yeah, and looks like they're going to go for that Reds as well, so no business decisions being made just yet. Cielo tossing those nades, the arc flying through the air, but are they going to fall far enough? Adrian is going to be picked up now too. The dinner plate, what can it serve to those members of INCO? If you're INCO, yeah, I think INCO made the decision I would have made there. They just got her to dodge.
Yeah, and even though they didn't really give time for the revive player to get a first aid off, it was certainly the best position, because all it took timing wise is the right nade cooked at the right time while the heal is going through, and that would have been the whole event squad, right? So yeah, fair play to INCO and VIVO Kid off the back of the reset. As a person team, they've got to be careful. Influence Rage floating in from that northwestern side of the circle across the river in towards the precipice of their position.
Yeah, and we're inside Snake Compound now. Honored Souls fighting it out with INCO. Let's see if the Grim Reaper's going to take anyone up on this. Well, Padrino tosses a nade that is perfect as he manages to land the knock. And Nino is going to run off in the distance. Smith now cooking up another nade as the utility dumps are being absolutely perfect so far. God, taking round one corner. Honored Souls, they've got a knock, but they're not getting too aggressive here. They're not making any reckless decisions. They've got a knock, but I think with the intel they have, knowing 3 players could potentially be up in the same building, Imperium, they've decided they're going to maybe wait and try get that second knock first.
VIVO Kid rotating, going deep in towards the heart of the circle, and that comes with a lot of risks out into towards the open. There you go. Wall Street Bets are inside the compound south of school. INCO, Honored Souls, the fight continues. Honored Souls were a little bit split up, and that's why they were hesitant to really go for the fight. One of their players is knocked. We're going to see the push from INCO.
Oh, INCO getting ready, but God is going to pre-fire it around the corner. Getting aggressive. Nova Q's gets the knock on. And it was Nova, our third party in it in this action between these two teams. Smith transitions beautifully with that spray, but Honored Souls are going to get wiped by INCO. But they got to be careful because the push from Nova may be about to come on in as INCO. We've got a 2-2 split of players rezzing going on right now, Imperium.
I like this from Nova, the opportunistic play, but they might be a bit too late to the party. The next circle does pop up. It centers in quite nicely. It's going to go a bit more down south, less water and play, but you've got the South Pachiki Hills. You do have the set of buildings that's towards that coastline position in the mainland that could be very accessible to lock down for Nova.
And Nova wants to lock it down, though. Locking down areas of map is so important. Zone control can be massive. The zone does shift, and Potato Hill's still inside it, but it's looking more like we're heading down to that Cloud 9 hill just to the south of Pachinki. Looking at the teams that may be able to take advantage of this. Infinity on the move. Nova sitting in a great spot right now. But Wall Street Bets. I think this is the latest I've seen them alive in a game, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure, but it still becomes quite sticky for them to really find a controlling position inside the circle. Out of the compound they go. Luckily, Nino is going to be able to spot Diego, the last surviving player of VIVO Key. Some shots are traded up. Nemo is going to go for the heel off and then maybe re-engage onto Diego. Diego staying prone down, waiting for the shots to come through. BULUC CHABTAN getting involved from behind.
Yeah, BULUC CHABTAN doing VIVO Key a massive favor here by pushing out the Wall Street bets, which means that they couldn't get aggressive, but Neto does get that kill as INTZ pick up another point. BULUC CHABTAN, INTZ, Wall Street bets, all of these teams playing inside that plug and socket compound outside of school. Medan gets sprayed down and oh my god, Imperium, he was about an inch and a half away from getting around the right side of that wall.
What kind of goes around comes around in terms of what helped. BULUC CHABTAN hurt them in the end as INTZ got involved from the circle on the third party shots outside of Pachinki on that northern side, closer towards the church area. Pre-fire shots from Fernan, putting pressure on the Wall Street bets.
Yeah, Wall Street bets, it's a 2 versus 1 inside this building. Now it's a 2v2 as the rest of BULUC CHABTAN are coming up the stairs. Spray comes out and that will be that. And I believe we've just lost Wall Street bets. Black Dragons now getting into that fight with Team QUESO. These are 2 more of those familiar faces from last season, fighting it on out. The zone is closing and it's compounding the misery on some of the teams that are inside. Influence Rage, they're up alive to the south of Pachinki, but these gunfights going on right now, especially this one between Team QUESO, when you're taking on a compound team, you really need that first knock, don't you, before you can push on an Imperium?
Yeah, the first knock does help, but I think with the spread Team QUESO they can afford themselves a little bit more time and not rush in looking for the first knock in that regard. They got to make sure they play towards being outside on the outskirts of the coastline. Of course, the next phase has popped up and it shifts up north, which does put both these teams outside the circle. I think Team QUESO realizing that they're better off disengaging. They've left Kuna on that coastline position. I kind of agree with that. It's a little bit kind of like heartless, but again, if it's too much of a risk to try and pick them up, you're better off leaving your teammate and allows them to focus on Influence Rage, but they still got to watch their backs. Luckily, Kuna had a vehicle to use for himself.
He did, and while that was going on, the zone shifted hard and towards Pachinki. We may get that urban warfare. Boring patrol, laying down some fire. Loop's taking a lot of damage. Nova Kindness gets knocked as well. Elsewhere around the map, a lot of teams fighting, you know, a little bit damaged. You're looking at the likes of Nova, 2 members down. Team QUESO, 1 member down. Loops, 2 players out as Black Dragons and Team QUESO now getting into that fight that threatened to kick off for so long, but that'll be a knock onto one of the members. But Martin's using that tree for a little bit of cover. Here comes Nova.
Oh my lord, Ayala.
Ayala drifted around the corner. Now it's all down to talents against the members of Team QUESO. Nicholas is pushing in for a little bit of moral support, but Team QUESO, they are in a bad spot. It's 1 member down, no members left. Black Dragons win the battle of the hill. Team QUESO are eliminated. And now let's jump over to that fight between Influence Rage.
I don't agree with teams committing fully to such as, let's say, Esports protocol, or a little bit more on that south edge, right? So it gives them scope of information towards the south fields and the south hillside. So if the next circle shifts away from Pachinki, it gives them a little bit more room to breathe in that regard, watching their backs. A little bit same with BULUC CHABTAN. I know they were in a bit of a fight, so they're coming in late, so kind of, you know, it's a little bit like, okay, well, we kind of got nowhere else to go because it's all taken.
Yeah, now Talents is going to move into the other side, the spot that we've seen Influence or seen Team QUESO trying to grab earlier, and he's going to find the same sort of resistance. Federal trying to put a little bit. Oh my god, that was nearly another run overkill, but Federal pops his head up, gets 1 knock, and now why are these cars just driving around Imperium?
they're just having a good old time as Black Dragon loses another player or two. That puts them down to just a solo. The Influence Rage going to be able to pick up another couple of points. However, LAZARUS does at least get a little bit of revenge.
Yeah, spraying them down and manages to get the knock on to Federal as well. So, LAZARUS piling on the pressure on the Influence Rage. And now he's got one member to deal with. Drops. Oh my god. Law. Behave yourself, Infinity Esports. They're still inside this game as well. The zone shifts hard out of Pachinki, though. Onto
That's what I thought. That's why I said it was always going to be easier for Boring Protocol, because they didn't commit directly into the city. They stuck to the edge. It gave them scope of information and a bit of a better entry point into the circle.
Yeah, no, Infinity Esports, they're trying to make their way inside. Looking towards Pachinki. GamRZ looking down that hill as well towards INCO. They're on the move. ATON playing inside Archfields off in the distance as well. INCO becoming the target. They've pushed right on up on that little bit of a ridge. And you want to know something? That's actually not a bad position to play. If you just look at the map. Oh, we'll pick up that point in a little second as BULUC CHABTAN are fighting it out within. Fernand drops to his knees. A Lion Kid gets the first aid kit off. Spray coming through the window, but it's a tough spot to be in. Netos is trying to blow up the Lamborghini. Sprays down Kid. And BULUC CHABTAN are wiped. But yeah, back to my point. That ridge is a good place to play. It looks very open on the map. But you've got a lot of cover. And the situation is, teams around you have to fight each other before they can get a line of sight on you.
Yeah, exactly. You're dead right with that. Gibson as Influence Rage have a 3-1 split. Loops go down. Influence Rage pick up another couple of points. And they're on 13 eliminations so far in this game, taking full advantage of the fact that in the previous game, the likes of Nova and the teams around them didn't really perform that well. So the cushion is going to be created even higher at the end of this game. So good play from Influence Rage, not taking it for granted. One of the teams that are close to them within the top 5 is Boring Protocol. Of course, Influence Rage does have the guts onto them so far on top of the hillside.
Yeah, and you spoke earlier too about could they keep that 22-point lead where they are extending it right now and playing along the smoke wall. Spray from Neto, but there's absolutely nobody there to be caught by that 5.56. But this is a better spray from Influence Rage. Gets the knock on the Samuel. And look who is just damaging onto those players from Boring right now. Neto's going for the res, but you look, there's 6 teams left, 18 players alive. But the two Influence Rage and Infinity, 4 members up for them as everybody else is just picking each other apart right now. Little boy spraying into that smoke. INCO fall in 4th place. We got 3 teams left as 2 teams are wiped in just a matter of seconds.
I don't like the position Boring Protocol played outside of Pachinki. It was very kind of half-arse in that regard. It was a little bit towards the hill. It was a little bit down towards the flat terrain. There was no real core area they were able to hold down. And considering how they moved out initially out of Pachinki, I expected them to do a little bit better. But either way, we're down to our final 2 teams. Infinity against Influence Rage.
Yeah, and Influence Rage have all the zone control right now. They're up on the hill. Infinity are trying to close the gap and push in, but they are in that situation where they need the knock. It's a 4v4. Look at Chow moving down the hill off in the distance. Law and Federal. So I like what Chow's doing. He's spreading across the play, the off angle, and just compound the misery, bide his time, and take some shots at Infinity at the right moment. 23 minutes on the clock as Infinity are also on the move now too. They've got a lot of bodies that they could go for right now, but you know, my heart would love to see an Infinity Esports win because I love an underdog tail, but I just think that Influence Rage have too much right now for them.
Infinity just are taking a little bit too long to get into any kind of core position. Let's be fair, they have very little that they can utilize to their advantage, but the longer they take, the easier it is for Influence Rage to push in.
Yeah, and Law might be about to get the first knock. Chowski peeks on up, gets 2 knocks, sprays down the third with a little bit of help from Law, and it's just all falling apart now for Infinity. 1 member left off in the distance as Influence Rage take the win, and that is a huge chicken dinner from right there. It's got chicken, it's got potatoes, gravy, everything. They get everything you could possibly want in game number 4.
Sunday roast, if I've ever heard and seen right in front of my eyes. A great result from Influence Rage. Controlled, dominated, spread out. There's 1 or 2 kind of stickier situations, but they got involved in fights at the right time, and right up until the end, they had control of the game. Again, it was always going to be difficult for Infinity coming into that kind of final fight. But look how long they took to move with those vehicles. They didn't seem to know where they wanted to go. And that's something that as a team, you've got to know where you're going to go before you make a move. It was like, should we go here? Should we go there? In a vehicle, out of a vehicle, right? And that made it so much easier for not only Kowalski on the other side, but every single player from Influence Rage to get information to make that engagement just so much easier to deal with.
Yeah, and the difference was, like you point out, there was no dilly-dallying by Influence Rage. They committed to every decision they made straight away. And Infinity, they hummed and had, they thought about what they were going to do. And Influence Rage, they've done this dance before. They're masters. They just closed that gap and won that game out and really extend that lead at the top. And you can tell they had a great game, because when you look at all of these stats, all of them dominating the assists, 3 of the top damage players in there, and 3 of the top kills, all members of the Influence Rage roster.
Yeah, just a blueprint of a result if I've ever seen one. And Influence Rage, they're gunning to come out on top of America's League Season 5, and I can see it happening. It's shaping up quite nicely. Yes, we've had extended growth from Alpha 7, and there's still plenty more days to go, but if Influence Rage you continue on the right, it's going to be hard to stop them.
It is, and it's a situation where if they can just keep up this form, every once in a while pull up a massive win, it's going to be very hard for other teams to catch them. We spoke about it. They don't need to be the pace setters every match day. They just need to do enough that the gap just stays nice and comfortable. But a 38-point win, and Alpha 7 sat and watched all the teams that were hunting them down. Look at XSET, not even a single point for them.
Yeah, exactly. I look at this as an overall still a positive success for Borm Call. It could have and arguably should have been a top 2 for them, and with a couple more extra elimination points, but still 14 is a positive result on what is a continued strengthened run in America's Elite League Season 5. INCO with 11 was also positive. INTZ with 10 continues to be on the right path. Fortunately, Nova with only 2 points once again continues to create the storyline of Influence Rage, pushing that cushion ever higher.
Yeah, and that 51-point gap between, I think, was it first and 13th or 14th? Well, I can guarantee you it's a lot more now, thanks to that performance by them. And the thing is, a lot of teams had good games, but those games look bad in comparison to what Influence Rage did. And you look at those stats: 3k damage, 23 eliminations, 17.
That's ridiculous.
It's just a dominant performance.
Like, there's only been, I think, 3 teams in, and I don't know if this tournament will count. I like to think it would, but there's been only 3 teams in the history of official PUBG Mobile competitive that have gotten 24 elimination point chicken dinners. So for Influence Rage to get 23 is extremely impressive, and like that's 38 points in one game. That's more than what a lot of teams are getting in a whole day.
That's more than Alpha 7 had going into day 3.
There you go.
And you know, we keep taking those little digs at Alpha 7, but that's because they're the gold standard. They're the team that everybody wants to emulate. They're a dynasty inside this league, and you look at the overall ranking. They've gone from, was it less than 31 points at the start of the day? They're up at 94 now, so they're having a phenomenal day too.
Yeah, they are. They're having a fantastic day 3, to be fair. Little bit of a drop off from Alpha 7, but yeah, actually, I suppose they weren't playing the previous game, so my apologies. Actually, no, hasn't been a drop off, but it still gives them scope to get up into the top 5 and even into top 4, top 3 of Nova Esports, who are playing actually the final game. So, yeah, interesting. Influence rate 160, 114. That is a 36-point lead.
Yeah, big lead for them. Getting ready to go into game number 6 of the night, but I think game 5. It's tired. It's 2:30 a.m.
Have we had like 5 games where we're having an extra game?
We have definitely had 5 games worth of action already. This has been phenomenal, but I think it's about time we jump into that break. When we come back, we will have our 5th and final map of the night. And welcome back on it. That handsome man over to my left, your right, is the one and only Imperium. And my name is Gibson Imperium. Map number 5. We're seeing Group E sit this one out. So all of the main teams in that hunt right now are going to be taking part in this lobby.
ATON, MEXEZIS Streams, Nova. Well, Nova were kind of to an extent in the hunt, but they've had a little bit of a fall off. The end of their day number 3 for the Americas Elite League, as well as XSET, of course. Like you said, means the teams that are in the hunt for the top spot for that kind of top 3, top 5 set themselves up quite nicely coming into day 4. It's going to be difficult on the crazy jungle terrain of Sandhawk.
And we've seen it. Sandhawk games are just absolutely crazy. The flight path way off to the east this time, going from about, we'll say that's between, half four up to 12 o'clock, as we get very, very excited with that one. But the fight that I'm looking to see right now is a continuation of game 1 and 2. I want to see INTZ taking on WALLSTREETBETS inside Paradise. That's what I want to see.
XSET, not in this game. LAZARUS that normally drop with Influence Rage and Bootcamp. Yeah, that's going to be the case once again. So both of the teams not changing their drop spot. WALLSTREETBETS and INTZ, of course, continue to battle in Paradise Resort, as well as Honored Souls and BULUC CHABTAN in around Cow. They do have Black Dragons close by, but yeah, 3 core battles starting inside this Sandhawk game. Final game of the evening.
Last game of the evening. Last chance to get some points on the board. And LAZARUS are going to fight out with Influence Rage. And Influence Rage, if they can win this one, that's 4 points before the game has even properly started. But they can't afford to do anything silly. The situation they're in is they need to stay in the lead. And of course, last season was heartbreaking for them, wasn't it, Imperium?
Yeah, it was, but you know what? Heartbreak can lead to success because it only makes you stronger, makes you tougher, thicker. You're able to use that strength in future situations. This season 5 could be their season. Moving on over to BULUC CHABTAN, like I said, fighting against Delta Stars. It's going to be Delta Stars to get the first elimination point, and Elite's just trying to run rings around Madion. He's going to get knocked in the end. But the Delta Stars players are here to support him.
He duck, dodge, dip, dived, and then couldn't dodge the last one as he did manage to fall. And you know, you need to dodge, duck, dip, dived, and dodge to win those ones. But Medean now with Delta Stars. The WALLSTREETBETS, that fight's back on the cards as 24k. INTZ lost this round 2 out of 3 times. Let's see if WALLSTREET can make it a hat-trick.
WALLSTREETBETS a little bit slower this time around against INTZ. INTZ maybe being a bit more respectful in that regard, although I do respect that WALLSTREETBETS in their own right are just taking their time, making sure they don't make any core mistakes. Black Dragons, I said that they could get involved around this cow area because they did drop close by. Indeed, that's the case. Oh my lord. Elian Kid is going to clutch on up as the final player for BULUC CHABTAN. Down to a sliver of health. How is he still alive?
1 HP and a dream. And all he wants is a couple of to get the med kit up. He's not going to have the time. He's spotted out and he's taken out as Martins wipes him. But how close was BULUC CHABTAN and Elian to actually getting that kill?
It was damn close. One more bullet. One more sliver of health probably was the difference between that 1v1 in the end, as WALLSTREETBETS pushing in, snaking through on the underside of Paradise.
Just like Phil Collins once said, it's another day for you and me in Paradise for WALLSTREETBETS as they're fighting out with INTZ. INTZ lost round 1 and 2. They're trying to win the final one. But with one member of WALLSTREETBETS down already, it's looking good for INTZ. 24k, trying to be 24 karat gold for his side, but no kills to be found. The vest and helmet in pretty good nick as he's just going to jump and punch in, I suppose, for those of you at home, Imperium, the jump punch is just a quiet way to fall back, especially when you're on concrete.
Yeah, it's available for everybody to use. It may not be ideal, but it does allow you to move around just a little bit more quietly and towards the train when you have a team close by. It comes with its risks because you do have to have hands empty from a gun. So if you're not quick enough, you can get bit in the butt. We've seen it happen plenty of times as WALLSTREETBETS get the trade-off.
Yeah, 2 members have actually fallen now for INTZ, and I'm going to go back on that subject in just about a second when I ask you, is it a bug or is it a feature? It's always a fun game to play. But WALLSTREETBETS wrapping around. There's another point on the board. They just wish that every single fight could be in paradise because this has been home turf for them. They've had so much fun. But look who's coming on in. Rise have decided they want a third party this one.
Wonderfully done, and that's where time can kind of go against you inside Sanhok, especially as Rise get the sniff of an opportunity. That's going to be INTZ, I believe, taken. No, not quite. They do still have 1 player left. WALLSTREETBETS are going to be slowed down by the rise of Rise.
Oh no, and the Black Dragons are pushing in from behind as well. Rafinha using that vector as he draws a vector of a... Oh my god, what a spray that is. And WALLSTREETBETS falling off in the distance, falling to their deaths. But hey, Black Dragons third, fourth party time maybe?
And we'll have to wait and see as Lazarus and Lazarus and Influence Ray now starting to really kick off the fight inside bootcamp. Bit of a risk for Kiseki. Gets on towards the square boulder of the building. Joey's knocked. Now looking for the trade. Fear is unfortunately going to get put down to his knees.
Yeah, Lazarus.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Nunez was having none of that. Or sorry, the little boy was having none of that as he peeked around the corner, and now Lion drops as well. That is that for Lazarus. They drop in 12th place, 6 minutes gone, and we're already into our top 10 as it looks like Rise tore up. Oh. Carnage, what are you doing, you bad man? Influence Rage taking a little bit of damage, and Boring Protocol, if they can get this kill or the squad wipe on Influence, they will do the rest of this lobby a favor. Here's
the thing. He's actually on his own. Even though they're down to 3 players, he's on his own. His 2 teammates are like still in hatting. They've got vehicles, but it's still going to take a bit of time for them to join up. And Carnage is just kind of like, look, I'm on my own. I might as well do something here. But unfortunately, he hasn't got the information. He gets put down to his knees. Yeah, and that's another point delivered to Influence Rage as they continue what has been a stellar performance. The zone, while all that was happening, did shift pretty much up to the more northern section of the LAN. Not a nasty one for the players, but I'm looking around Influence Rage. Are we going to see the rest of the members push on in this one? It looks like it's not going to happen as they take bootcamp all to themselves, but I'm looking around the rest of the zone for maybe potential flashpoints. And is there anything standing out to you right now, Imperium? No, not really. Okay, there's a vertical. I think it's vertical. I always get mixed up between vertical and horizontal. It's a vertical line kind of in the middle of the map between Paradise and the western edge of Quarry, right? You have Rise, Honor Soul, Loops, Alpha 7 and Team QUESO. Of course, that means that there's a lot of space on the edge of the circles. That in itself is going to be a little bit more obvious to the teams because we're already down to 36 players, right? So, you know, even if there was a bit more of a spread, there still would be plenty of space on the edge of this phase on circle. Yeah, and Leo is just looking around that rock, bandaging himself up right now, but with the members of Boring in the distance, he's just going to hide for a second. Mafioso now from Alpha 7. They've had a great day so far as they try to close that gap, looking up towards Loops. But speaking of Loops, I haven't seen Cardozan show the form that he did last season. Whenever I did the 2 or 3 play days, he was
MVP, and I think 7 of the 10 maps that I casted, but he's just not got up and running. Loops as a whole just haven't captured that Season 4 form yet.
And it's funny you should mention that, because as far as I know, the kind of the days that you and the games that you commentated were more towards the tail end, and that kind of was the case with Loops, where they weren't really too hot at the start of Season 4 and they came into their own a little bit midway through, whether that's on purpose or otherwise, but it could be a trend in that regard. Gibson, I'm glad you pointed out. Let's see how it develops throughout this season. 5 as the next phase has popped up. It shifts over to the west, so it's not as healthy towards the mainland as the teams would like. You do still have that Northwest Island in play. Maybe bring a little bit of sigh of relief for Vivo Key, depending on how they really look to play in on that coastline and outside Hatay.
Yeah, but our little island is there. We could potentially get that ending.
True.
Revo is just scooting on out of there in the Vespa, making the way up the hill. Alpha Set. Oh, Team QUESO. Nitsu sprays at them, but doesn't get the knock, and that's an opportunity lost for Team QUESO. They've pretty much had the Jekyll and Hyde day that we said that they tend to do. They've had a couple of phenomenal games, and since then they've been virtually anonymous.
Okay. Alpha 7. They were nearly punished. They probably should have been punished, but they got away with it. Now they have a 2-2 split either side. I like that. They're looking down towards the bottom of the hill. Yeah, okay, Team QUESO. Team QUESO do have the comfort of the buildings, but like a baby bell, there may be hard cover, but all it takes is one little peel, and that cover is going to be slipped away. The wax is going to be taken off, and it's going to be easy peasy lemon squeezy for Alpha 7 to bite in to the tasty Team QUESO.
Oh no.
I'm proud of that analogy, to be fair.
I loved it. I loved it. If it draws a slap of the forehead by me or anyone in chat, it's a good one. That's what you go for with these, you know. Team QUESO, they provide so much entertainment value for the puns alone. I couldn't imagine AEL without them, because where would we be as casters without the ability to just cheese it up, make those puns, and just have a damn good time with it.
And here's the thing, I've been commentating Team QUESO since like late 2019, and it doesn't get boring at all. It just doesn't. I'm talking about boring protocol. They lost a player early on, and when they split drop around that kind of mountain area, and I think it was Acer that went down to Vivo Key, and then we saw Carnage push down towards bootcamp for some reason. It end up going down. And I don't know exactly what happened to Sam, but now it's just Spec left on his own, and I can't see him surviving for much longer. INCO has the sightlines on them, and if he moves any further away edge of this cliff, he's going to be absolutely ripped apart. If not, INCO are going to come look for him.
Yeah, but it's a nice little, like, mini cave, like, impression, whatever you want to call it. He's pretty well hidden right now. For him, it's just a matter. So, PUBG Mobile, you'll be in a position like this, and you'll be looking around, and then all of a sudden, for no reason, your character model, well, because of the terrain, your character model will do that little step. You know when you're looking, he makes that little step.
Yeah.
And that noise just echoes throughout the game for these players
really
around
does.
them.
It really does. It's like in that film where, you know, they're trying to, let's say Jurassic Park, for example, and they're trying not to make noise, and just this single, you know, drop of sweat hitting the ground just ripples through, and it makes all the noise that you don't want to happen. And yeah, that can definitely be the case when you just have that little kind of footstep or that little bit of a hump that you mentioned.
Or, you know, when you snuck home when you were younger after a night out where you weren't supposed to be, and you step on that one little creak of a board, it's like, and you're like, oh no. Well, that's the Specs that
What do you mean when you're young, you know?
Yeah. Specs he's been out, he's had a couple of beverages, he's trying to just stay as anonymous as possible. But what could happen is INCO could just ride on up and Spec could be lying on the sofa all by himself with a little bit of a trail beside him. But anyways, before we get in trouble, we're going to move on to this gunfight as there we go, Cardozen, beautiful spray. I've been waiting for that all day long from him because in my opinion, from what I've seen of him, he is an absolute star. And he has a massive future ahead of him.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Nice to see that shine come through. His ears must have been burning after you talked about him. And shine is going to come out. His demeanor on the other side as well. With that QBZ, gets a knock onto one of the Team QUESO players. Alpha 7 have wrapped around the head as Phase 3 did shift up north. He still have that bit of discomfort on towards that northwest island still in play, so the mainland terrain has been whittled down. Once again, we are down to 35 players, so there is automatically a little bit more terrain for these teams to hold on to. Outside of Infinity Esports, though, all of them are inside the circle.
Yeah. It's a great spot to be for these teams. I am looking, that island is still in play as Little Boy is no longer in play as that shotgun rings out. That's an early shower for him. Loops now in the distance. Cunha trying to maybe find the head of Loops as they make their way inside the zone. But these two teams just outside of bootcamp, not only are they making a lot of noise right now and gatekeeping each other, just look in bootcamp. Alpha 7, they're there, they're ready, they're waiting to pile on the pressure, and look who's just to the north of them as well. Influence Rage. The southern section of the zone has a lot of those big names.
They do indeed, but never forget Rise on the eastern side of the map outside of Paradise Resort. Nunes gets a knock in the midst and slows Honored Souls down. It might allow Influence Rage to push a little bit more forward, or they might just wait and hold down that north bootcamp hill, the blue zone, starting to close in. VIVO Key, they're still on that northwest island as a 3-person team. I believe they sent one player across onto that bootcamp area and he got taken down. I don't know exactly by who, but they still have 3 players strong.
Yeah, and Honored Souls getting into it with Influence Rage. One member has fallen, and this is a huge gunfight for the rest of this lobby. Nino's got the DBS. That thing is absolutely horrifying. As I told you last season, it's the dirty big shotgun. That's what it stands for. It's horrible to come up against. But can Influence Rage fight back? Look at this. We talked about Alpha 7. They've done some damage. Nino dropped his Chowski. Gets that knock. But another member of Influence Rage has fallen. But look at Law. He's just sneaking up on the action. The knock beside the rock. The jump punch, jump punch, jump punch, head punch as he tries to find that shot on to the members of Honored Souls, and Smith is going to fall. Oh my god, this is just all falling apart now. Look at Influence Rage just farming these points.
Law, just a one-man wrecking machine, to be fair. Up to 3 eliminations for aside his teammate Kowalski, off the back of getting knocked, will be able to be revived. But after 7 swinging in for the fences, this starts to shift up north. By the way, I have to mention, Ireland is still in play. Just no wink. Of course, the center of the circle is that compound that INCO hold on to by the coastline on the high ground.
And our best friend Spec still suffering from his night out, hiding in that cliff trying to make as little noise as possible. Law back on the sneak. Chow was up to 3. Just 2 members of Influence Rage standing, but they've got 7 elimination points. Rise at the top with 8. And I'm looking around. Alpha 7 only got 1. Vivo Key have got 1. They're just still extending that gap. And if a couple of teams fall, it's going to open the door. But oh no. Loops have found them. Loops may be about to end Influence Rage's tirade inside this one as Toiko pushes on up. And look at that. Cardozen wipes them out. And now an opportunity maybe for some of those teams in the hunt to just close the gap a little bit.
It was still a good result for Influence Rage, though. They picked themselves up 7 points. Not as strong of a result as maybe it could have been, but it became difficult as soon as the circle shifted away, because not only would they have had to face a blue, but of course teams around us such as Alpha 7 as well as Loops. The last player, Runner Soul, still alive inside the building. Gotta wonder how much information Loops will have on his position. I doubt it, but they've got to make sure that they check every single building. The DBS, the big dirty shotgun, comes into play. He gets one, gets the second, not quite. The squad hype was always going to be difficult for him.
Yeah, and they're going to get the reses as well, so no points garnered for them. 8 teams left, 24 players alive, which, you know, if you're a math buff, that means that there's an average of 3 players left per squad. I'm looking at what's going on in the map. So many teams just swimming right now up towards the north. You know, it's a little bit of PUBG mobile water DLC going on right now.
7. Like, did you not hear the shotgun bullets between Loops and Honor Souls behind you? Why weren't you watching your backs in the right way? You had to cover on the side of the hill from the likes of Rise in that regard, in my opinion. Definitely a little bit of a mistake, as the next circle does shift up north away from the island, unfortunately, as Team Queso loses a player from Korea who held on to the island, I might add, moved in towards it. Now Loops being punished by Team Queso.
Yeah, Team Queso pushing on in an Alpha 7. They weren't quite Alpha 7.1 digital Dolby surround sound. They're more like good old stereo noise as they get caught in the back. And it's like you said, a team like that shouldn't make those kind of mistakes. Mufasa, though, he's having a little bit of a look over. As Rise Esports, they've lost 2 more members, but they've got 10 eliminations. Mufasa looking up towards INCO now. The zone shifts, and we got quite a bit of water inside the zone, which means this INCO compound is prime real estate right now.
Infinity still find themselves up as a full squad, but they have a pretty big spread up on the northern side with only 1 player inside the circle. Lux is covering the bridge on the underside. That's where Vivo Key could get caught out as just a duo. However, with Flux on his own, or Lux should I say on his own, it's going to be easier said than done. Team Queso, oh bye-bye as the last player taken out, followed by Vivo Key, and good to see Infinity had their numbers covered.
Yeah, that's better from them as well. Another one of the new teams in the season showing us what they can do. Team Loops have dropped now too. There's just 4 teams left. Only 10 players. INCO with 4 members standing. Rise of 13 eliminations. The blue zone getting in on Gamma, and Gamma is going to get knocked. Another player falls. 3 teams left. As that will be that for Rise. And look at this. INCO and the only...
Spec Gibson! Spec! How long has he been in that position for?
All night. He's fallen asleep on the sofa, and now he's just woken up and he's like, it's 7 a.m. I need to get back up to my bed. I need to move up and around before anyone else spots me. But there is a Worlds where Spec can win this. There really is.
It's a crazy world. However, I get it, but I think they know that there could still be a player behind them. So they're watching their backs, they're covering their back safe throughout a bit of utility just to slow Spec down.
It all depends on what happens with Zohan. You know, Zohan is the key to a victory right now for Boring. But I think INCO have played this game really well. Yes, they haven't lit up the elimination feed as much as some of the other teams, but they grabbed a good compound and they fought back anybody who tried to take it away from them. You know, it's not all about picking up eliminations. It's about making yourself big, beating your chest, and letting everybody know that you are the kings of the hill. Zohan full-on snake mode now as he crawls his way around, and oh, I just see Spec pushing in on the edge of the zone, and he's... You know what? Nobody's looking. Spec is going to get in.
Also got a little bit of time on his hand. Up on towards the roof. Golden from INCO is going to get slowed down, and Zohan gets a knock.
Yeah, Zohan gets one, and maybe he might get another as Vitali is pushing down that way with the nade at the ready, but his hip fires him out of the game, and it's now a 5v2. But
oh my God!
Around the oh, INCO got the win. I thought for a second that Boring were going to do it, but look, INCO Gaming, the Lion, the Pride, they do themselves very proud as they get the win in map number 5 of the night.
That was a bit of a weirder ending to the game than I kind of expected. Infinity, their spread worked out to an extent, but they were also a little bit slow on how they really pushed up and took any kind of control towards the late stages of the game. Like, I kind of feel they could have put a bit more pressure on INCO in that regard. It was what it was, and Spec of Boring Protocol, patience paid off. The patience paid off. He got himself a top 2.
Yeah, and that's all that he could have probably asked for in that situation. Mufasa, though, king of that game. 11 eliminations for Rise. QUESO did most damage, and Demonor got the most assists for Loops. The first time we kind of see them in those stats tonight. But for the final game, it's nice to see a team like INCO get the win. And funny enough, apart from Liao showing up in the damage, they don't turn up in any of these other stats.
Yeah, exactly. They're unlike the silent but deadly type of team. Maybe sometimes being passive, that possibly put them in the butt later down the line. But for the time being, their own playstyle is working in favor. As Cleo, highest healing 376, a little bit rare. Normally we see in Sandhawk at least one team going for heavy heal strats, but wasn't the case around.
No, it wasn't, and I think the zone kind of didn't allow that to become an opportunity as teams got into a lot of fights. And can I just say, what a head of hair and facial hair that our boy Golden has. That is impressive. Man looking fresh. Game ranking, INCO picked up 24 points, Rise picked up 21. I'm looking down towards the likes of Influence Rage. They picked up 8 points, and as you look above them, not a lot of the teams that are really a direct threat to them on game day 3 inside or picked up a lot more points than them.
Yeah, exactly. Alpha 7 on the same amount of points isn't really much of a threat. Boring Protocol were a little bit, but it's only 4 less points, right? So that's not really anything to worry about too much. INCO, they've had a really good step up in today's games, and they were within that top 5, top 7. Like I said, though, you know, Influence Rage had a good 35 points lead over second place, never mind 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th onwards. So shouldn't really be any real issue. Influence Rage will go into day 4. It's a pretty comfortable lead.
Yeah, they will. INCO Gaming, let's have a look at their stats. 9 eliminations, 1,300 damage. Not a lot of utility used at all. 10 nades, 1 smoke. Once again, they didn't really have to use smoke, much like the VIVO Key game. The terrain and the cover provided that for them. Or your MVP of that map was Mufasa, as he picked up 6 kills, 490 damage. So we speak about, you know, that efficiency. Well, Mufasa on, you know, positive efficiency there, as he did more kills than you usually should with 500 damage.
Well, don't forget they did third party a couple of fights towards the start in around the Paradise area, so that probably contributed in that regard as we look at the overall standings. Indeed, a 40-point lead Influence Rage have over the second place team, which is INCO Gaming. Like I said, a good step up, and Boring Protocol continue to be within the top 3. Very positive stuff from the North American team.
Yeah, and Influence Rage, though, look at that lead, like you pointed out. And we said at one point there was 51 points between, I think, 15th and 1st. Well, look at that gap now. It's nearly extended to 100. It's in the 90s, which is a great... It just shows how good the day from Influence Rage
like
was.
Said,
big winners of the day for me was Influence Rage, Alpha 7 as well.
13th? It's still only 45 points.
Yep.
Right. it's so close, and if you extend that even closer, you look at 5th place down to 13th. That's only 22 points. So we will, and it makes sense because we're early on in the game. We're only 12 games into the tournament, so that does make sense. But it just goes to show you that if you're in 7th, such as Alpha 7, which credit to them, they've had a good step up. If they have a bad day, they could easily find themselves back down in 13th, 14th on Thursday. So yeah, gotta continue to have your wits about for all these teams fighting for the top 3.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll see how things stand on Thursday. But your top kills of the day, let's have a look at those stats. Law picked up 12 eliminations. Senate picked up 10, as did Little Boy. So we had some big performances by some of those players today.
Yeah, can't argue with Tex, a former player of Alpha 7, ironically. So, you know, kind of really showing what his ex-team are missing in that regard. And Influence Rage having 2 players in the top 5 just shows how strong they've been when it comes to the elimination points in today's game so far. And Rise having, once again, a pretty positive step up.
Yep, and here's your MVP of the day. Little Boy from Influence Rage had a fantastic day. Nino from Honored Souls coming in 2nd, with Spec coming in 3rd with some big clutches. But you look at that step off from 1st, which is Little Boy, down to 4th. There's nearly a 2.5 difference in the rating. That's how good of a day Little Boy had.
Wow, I really noticed that too much. You're bang on with that. Of course, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, all on the same MVP rating of 4.38, and then it goes down to Fernan and BULUC CHABTAN. Indeed, a top spot held onto by Little Boy is very impressive. Not only of the whole of Influence Rage to continue to dominate the America's Elite League Season 5.
Yeah, great start to them, but we have sadly come to the end of the night, so I want to give a massive thank you to all of the production staff in the back room, all the players, all the viewers, and the biggest thank you, as always, we give to our boy Imperium. Absolute pleasure to work with you for just the second time, but it feels like, you know, we've been doing it for a long time. I think it's just that Irish connection. But look, everybody is sick of hearing me talking. I've done all the welcomes in. I've done nearly all the handoffs to break. Imperium, give us the sign-off for the end of the night.
Have a lovely evening. Have a lovely day, night, wherever you are in the world. Catch us at the same time, same place on Thursday for day number 4 of America's Elite League. And we'll see you all then.